The following podcast may contain adult language and conversations revolving around situations not suitable for immature audiences. Spoilers and general political incorrectness can often be expected, so listener discretion is advised.
They must be destroyed on sight!
All right, we're back for another episode of They Must Be Destroyed on Sight, and I am joined by my co-host Daniel Harper. How you doing, sir?
Doing all right, making it.
Cool.
Enjoying the holiday weather. We got some snow here, and then it melted. So
yeah, same here actually. Very little snow though, just like a dusting.
We got maybe 6 inches.
Oh really? Oh yeah, that's right. I saw the picture. Yeah.
We got the lake effect snow, which we get here in Southwest Michigan. Where it's the blanket of very wet, nasty snow.
Yeah.
Which, I thought it was going to stick around. It was a thing, and then it didn't. So
it's a good thing it didn't stick around, because that's like the worst shit to shovel. But
when it compacts it down into ice, and then you have to break it up. It's I've been in Michigan for 8 years. This will be my 8th winter. So go me.
Yeah, I mean you're practically Canadian in that regard, because that's exactly the same shit we get. So yeah. And I'm your host, Lee Russell. We're here. Paul may or may not join in. He's sort of MIA at the moment, so he said he was going to be around, but who knows? He might be drunk, he might be passed out, one or the other. Could be both.
I was really interested to see which holiday movies he was going to bring. They were all going to be slashers, I know, but it was just which ones,
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking some of my lists would probably have bled over into his list anyway, to pardon the pun, but we'll see anyway. But yeah, we're just going to do a general chat. That's going to be sort of the theme of the episode. Not necessarily an official list show like sometimes that we do. We're just going to be throwing out some holiday theme movies. You Americans just had your Thanksgiving, and we're approaching the Christmas seasons, and we had Halloween before that. So it's the big sort of holiday, end of the year holiday kind of season all together, really. So we're just going to be generally throwing out movies that we maybe like, or perhaps movies we don't like, and we're just going to sort of discuss them. And before that, though, we're going to get into some stuff that we've been watching, and then we're also going to bring back a round of Movie God, which we haven't done for a little while. But before we do Movie God, Daniel, you want to get into some of the movies you've watched in the last little while?
Sure. Well, actually, last Saturday, I was, when the big snowstorm came, I was kind of sitting at home, and I had planned to do some productive work that day, and then the big snowstorm came, and I went, you know what I need? I need a bottle of bourbon, and I'm just going to sit and watch movies all day. This is going to be my day. So I bought a bottle of cheap bourbon because I was like, I'm unemployed, but I can afford a $12 bottle of bourbon, and which I really couldn't even afford. But it was all right. Sure, fuck it, it's done. This is my day. I'm done. So bought some bourbon and sat and watched some movies, and so I actually watched between Friday night and Saturday until I was just ready to go to bed. I actually watched 7 movies.
Wow, that's massive for you, pretty much.
Yeah, that's pretty. I don't do that often. This was just I was home alone. My wife was out of town, and I thought, you know what, fuck it. I could put on like a season of a TV show, or I can sit and watch some movies, and so that's what I did. And so I thought I'd go through the list, and some of these I know you've seen, and some I don't think you have. But
okay.
We'll probably spend some time on this because why not?
Yeah, why not?
So in the kind of basic order in which I watched these, I started out and I actually watched this film Restrepo, which is a documentary from 2010. And it actually is a documentary. It's a Sebastian Junger, I believe, is a kind of photojournalist, who was embedded with this military unit, basically in the most dangerous place in the world, essentially, in Afghanistan. This place where they were doing during this certain 1 month of the occupation of Afghanistan, 70% of all the ordnance that was dropped in Afghanistan was dropped in this one valley, which is, the level of firefighting that these guys are going through. Kind of what they were saying is, they were more like World War II veterans or Vietnam veterans when they came home, and this is a film that's. Have you seen the film?
I haven't seen it. No.
Okay. Are you familiar with it? Have you heard of it?
I have heard of it. Yeah.
Okay. There's a sequel called Korengal, which I'm definitely going to watch. I meant to put that one on at some point this week, but I didn't get around to watching that one. But Restrepo, it is very very unique. I always hate people who say very unique. Unique is an absolute, not a but it has this kind of unique quality in that it really isn't overtly about the politics of the situation. There isn't a sense of this kind of larger picture. It really is meant to be okay, we're embedded in this world with these men, and we kind of follow them along as they go. There are no you never cut to Bush on television talking about the Iraq War or anything like that. I mean, it's completely embedded. But at the same time, you see these guys, and it's just hey, they're just a bunch of kids, and you feel for them because they're just a bunch of kids. I mean, these are people who are 18, 19 years old, some of them. Yeah. But at the same time, you're sitting there and you're watching it. And it's man, you guys are a bunch of fucking idiots, and a bunch of without in any way denigrating their heroism and their courage, at least. There are these moments where it's they're trying to negotiate with the tribesmen, because the whole thing that they're trying to do is that there are these essentially terror cells that are operating in this valley, in this village, and they're being protected by the local villagers. And so they're trying to essentially negotiate. At one point, a cow gets caught in the fencing, some of the barbed wire fencing, and the cow gets caught, and then it's hurt too badly, and then they have to kill the cow, right? But then they have to pay the it's the villagers get mad because you just killed this cow. It's really valuable to us, and it's against the law for you to kill this cow, essentially. You're not allowed to kill cows for somebody else, and they want to get payment for it. And it's well, they call up the high command. The high command won't give them money. Oh, no, we can't verify the money, but we can give you rice and beans and sugar, and we can get the amount that we can give you is the weight of the cow. So it's okay, the cow is 1,800 pounds or whatever, we can give you that much foodstuffs. And the way that they negotiate and the way that they it's everybody's doing their best, but at the same time you're you guys don't know how to negotiate, you guys don't know how to communicate with these people. There's hardly anybody who actually speaks the language. There's hardly anybody really understanding what this culture is. You're just in there, you're struggling to do the best you can, but of course you're failing miserably because there's nobody able to do this job effectively.
Yeah.
At one point, one of the guys he's well, what the fuck do these guys want? You feel for them because they lose a lot of people. In fact, Restrepo, the name of the camp is after one of the guys who dies early on in the film. And they named that forward base camp that they built. They named it Restrepo after this guy that was very well loved, and he was this Italian guitar player, not Italian, Hawaiian guitar player.
I was about to say, was this Captain Corelli's mandolin all of a sudden or something?
Yeah. It was it's a pretty decent film. I think. If it has any issues, it's that it's too focused on its. The selling point of the film is that you're just embedded in this world, and it's not making any it's not overtly making any larger point, But at the same time, the weakness is that it doesn't really connect in some ways because it's so built into this isolated world of this one story. I've heard that the sequel kind of gets into a little bit more the bigger questions, and there's some more kind of kind of big picture political stuff. So I'm definitely going to see that, and I'll probably talk about it in a future episode.
This sounds pretty unique, because usually when you see a documentary and there's, if anything, there's like people complain that, and in the last 5-10 years, there's been like a plethora of like zombie movies, and that's like a plague on the movie industry at this point. Honestly, there's probably been more documentaries than anything else in the last 15 years. Like, there's just been an explosion of documentaries.
Well, that's the like, digital video revolution, really. Like, once you don't have to process 16 millimeter film or 35 millimeter film, for that matter, once you can literally buy a $500 digital camera and have it look as good as anything, suddenly a lot of these kind of films actually become much more financially viable, and certainly something like this really couldn't have existed without digital video, because there's just no way you can get traditional film cameras into some of these spots. And I think that it also speaks to the just the way that this is essentially, this one had a theatrical release, but a lot of this stuff, like Frontline does these amazing documentaries about these really big kind of political or socio-political topics, and it's just because, well, we're PBS, and we can do that, and then they get beyond PBS, they get digital distribution, and you can go online, you can watch them, or you can watch them on Netflix and that sort of thing. So I think that the digital distribution model really has worked well for small films, and documentaries are great at that.
Because when you look at Netflix now, it's like I've never done an official count, but when I look in the documentary section to find something interesting, I'm literally like, sometimes I'm spending like an hour going through everything in there just to try to find something to watch, because there's just so many documentaries these days, right? But I find it interesting that it's actually kind of rare you see a documentary that actually doesn't have necessarily any sort of slanted view, doesn't have some sort of even a very slight narrative going on. It's just giving you the bare bones as is, so that sounds pretty interesting to me. I think I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, no, it's definitely worth a watch. And I mean, I wouldn't say it's non-political, because ultimately every decision that you make, I mean, the idea that there is non-political art is a misnomer in my mind. I mean, every piece of art either reflects the biases of its makers, or it is a response to some, even if it's not overtly political, there are always decisions being made about what to include and what not to include. Yeah. And that sort of thing. But it definitely is not, like George W. Bush is not a character in this film. Barack Obama is not a character in this film. And I think that for a lot of people that would be refreshing. Definitely worth a check out. And I will watch Korengal at some point, and kind of let you know how I felt about that once I watch that.
Nice.
The next movie I watched, and I'm fairly certain you've seen this one, at least I hope you have, Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry.
I have, but it was a long time ago. So
this is a contender for my best of the year list. Honestly, this was a ton of fun as a movie. It's got Susan George and Peter Fonda, and another guy whose name I didn't write down because I didn't take any notes before this show, which I meant to write down a bunch of notes, but I didn't. I took a nap instead. You'll have to forgive me.
That's all right.
But Susan George, you might know more from Straw Dogs. She's the main female lead in Straw Dogs, and she was in some other stuff. And then Peter Fonda, obviously, played the titular Dirty Mary and Crazy Larry. And this is essentially it's a car chase film. I knew it because it had been name checked in Death Proof, obviously, is one of those films, and I'd never seen it, and I saw it was on Netflix and went, well, fuck yeah, I'm gonna sit and watch that. And a lot of these things I'm like, oh, it's an hour, it's 90 minutes out of my life. I'm not gonna take it too seriously. I'm just gonna sit. I'm gonna drink some whiskey or some beer or whatever and chill out in front of this film. But this was a very effective car chase film, and I think that it really, one of the reasons it works is it really has this strong sense of character and the strong sense of kind of place and time. You spend as much time, if it's just a bunch of car chases going on, it's kind of visually fun, I guess, but it's not, I don't care. But if if you get a sense of like who these characters are and kind of what's going on, there's the third person, the third guy in the movie is the mechanic, and he's an alcoholic, and he's there's a lot of like interpersonal dynamics between the three of them, and you get a sense of like this kind of budding romance, maybe, but not really, and it doesn't really ever kind of play that hand too tightly. And then you get this really cool cop who like plays by his own rules, which is definitely a cliche, but it's also like really effective in the way it's portrayed here.
Oh yeah, that's got Vic Morrow in it, for fuck's sakes.
Vic Morrow, yeah.
And Roddy McDowall. I forgot that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I literally just sat down and watched it, and I was just like, man, this is a really fun little film, and definitely, one that we could definitely cover on the show at some point.
Oh yeah, definitely. In more
detail. And it has a really it actually builds to an effective climax. That's one thing about like a lot of these things. They just kind of like, okay, we had this big action sequence at the end, and then there's no like weight behind it. There's no idea, or there's no. It just kind of ends with like, and then we have a bunch of car chases for no reason. This definitely builds to a really interesting climax and finale that we would definitely talk about to some detail if we were going to discuss the film in more detail.
Yeah. Oh, this is fun. The director of this one actually directed something I'm going to talk about on my watch list. So cool.
Awesome. Do you want to do that now and take a break from my list of 7 films, or you want me to just kind of keep going?
No, just keep going.
Okay. The next one I watched was Hannie Calder, which is...
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
This is the Raquel Welch. So this is the Raquel Welch Western, where she is... her husband is murdered and she is raped by 3 vagabonds. In a fairly long, I mean, nothing too incredibly long, but a fairly, intense rape sequence. Ernest Borgnine is one of the 3 men who rapes her and is, and then she vows revenge and basically chases them down, gets help from a gunslinger who is, I just appreciate it because he's a hero with glasses and a beard, which I'm always and, when there's a guy, there's kind of a middle-aged man with glasses and a beard who is kind of the badass of this movie. I'm down with this.
Nice.
Tarantino actually said that this character was one of the inspirations for Kill Bill, for The Bride, and I think you would. I mean, if you see it, there's definitely an element of that. I mean, I think Kill Bill, it extends beyond and does better than this. This does have a little bit of that sense of like Raquel Welch was just raped horribly and she just lost her home, and she literally, I mean, the 3 guys literally like burn her house down. And she's like, I mean, it's literally she escapes wearing a towel. I mean, wearing it's just like a blanket, and she ends up wearing the blanket for the entire film. She just like ends up like she gets pants at a certain point, and then she gets boots, and she buys a hat and that sort of thing. And so they're kind of playing at the lascivious, like this is Raquel Welch in a towel, effectively, for the first third of the film. I mean, and I mean, it is kind of one of those like, yeah, this was made in 1971 or whatever. Like there is a very clear sense of like.
I don't think there was a Raquel Welch film in that period that did not exploit how voluptuous she was.
Oh no, not at all. And on that level, it's certainly. I mean, it's the sort of thing that like I definitely would give it a pass because it's 1971 and because it's Raquel Welch and because she is like stunningly gorgeous, and I have no issues with the film like treating her that way. But it is kind of like, look, she was just raped horribly and like just lost everything in her life and is literally wearing a towel. And we're going to get some shots of, just how long her legs are underneath that towel. And her hair is completely non-mussed and, that sort of thing. I mean, it definitely exists in that genre. It is kind of one of those things where if it was made today, you would definitely treat some of these issues a little bit differently. But it's also cited, I mean, for the early 70s, this is a feminist picture. I mean, this is a very big, like, girl power. She can be a hero. She can come back from her own from this abuse sort of thing, and definitely worth a watch. I think it's on Netflix. So if you have a Netflix subscription, you can watch it. It's 90 minutes long. It's fun to it's a fun watch if you can kind of get past the the initial kind of subject matter and kind of wave away some of the implausibilities of it.
Yeah.
And I forget the name of the guy, the main hero, but he's very good at it. Actually, I'm going to look it up here if you'll forgive me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Robert Culp is the
Robert Culp, okay.
Yeah, and I didn't know him at all, but he's really good in this film. And I kind of looked him up, and he had a long career on TV. So he's kind of got one of those faces where I'm like, I know this guy from somewhere, but I don't know him from any particular place. I just know him as, oh, he's one of those TV actors. He did a bunch of TV westerns and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So he's quite good in it, and I really wish he had more of a film career, because I really kind of came away from this film kind of going like, man, this guy's really good. I wish I could see him in some more stuff. And I know he did some movies, but nothing that like jumped out at me as like, well, that's a definite must watch. So definitely check that out. It's worth a watch. I was kind of in a Western headspace for a while. I meant to watch a couple of others, but I didn't get through. That was basically the bourbon took over at a certain point, and I wasn't watching any more movies. The next movie I watched, which was a movie called Atari Game Over. This one was on Netflix. Have you seen this?
I saw that. I haven't seen it, but I did see it on Netflix.
Yeah. This is a film that's about. So there was the E.T. video game, which is widely called the worst video game ever made.
I've played worse, but it is a pretty bad game.
Right, and you know, it's also kind of credited as like the game that sunk Atari. You know, that's sort of like the big, you know, this is the game that sunk Atari back in the early 80s, and basically caused the video game crash, the video game maker crash in the early 80s. And the whole kind of narrative of the film is that there's this urban legend where all the copies of E.T., you know, there were so many returned copies, and it was such a financial liability that they just took all this thing out to Amogadro, New Mexico, and just buried them. And just went, and then like essentially the video game industry was buried alongside these 4 million copies of E.T. or whatever. Which, you know, I will not. I always just heard the story as something that was true. I never kind of heard it as like, oh, this is. Well,
they actually recently, last couple of years, they did a dig and they found.
That was the structure of the documentary, was to go and dig it up. And there's definitely, I mean, this is a film that is not about kind of analyzing the kind of rise and fall of Atari. I mean, it is kind of the story of kind of how Atari rose and fell. This is a movie about kind of giving a big sloppy blowjob to Atari and to Silicon Valley culture. This is a film that really there's this guy named Ernest Cline who wrote a book called Ready Player One, and who wrote a book called most recently, there's another one that he wrote, but this is the guy who is kind of you know, I'm 35. He's probably 5 to 10 years older than I am. He's one of these guys that grew up with the Atari video games. He played the E.T. game when it was new, and you know, all the obsessive Atari gamer kind of guy, and has basically parlayed that love of early 80s culture into a writing career. His most recent, his book, Ready Player One, has actually been optioned by Steven Spielberg to make into a film.
Really?
Yeah, and this is the kind of guy who, like, George R.R. Martin shows up in this film as like a guy who's like buddies with this guy Ernest Cline, right? You know, like Ernest Cline goes and picks up a DeLorean, like he bought a DeLorean, like a reproduction DeLorean, and he's driving that through the film. And he's got like this E.T. doll that's like riding in the car next to him, sort of thing. And I mean, it's very much like the filmmakers embrace this sort of like overgrown adolescent kind of mentality of like recapturing this thing from your youth. And you know, that you get a very clear sense of like what working at Atari in 1980, you know, from 1980 to 1983 would have been like. It's Harold Warshaw is the guy who created a bunch of the best-selling Atari video games, and is the guy who created the E.T. video game. And I mean, you kind of get the story. He had 5 weeks to make this game.
Yeah.
he was really overambitious about what. I mean, the game, like, it worked. Like, it was kind of this like fascinating thing of like, once you kind of hear his idea for it and you say, well, you had 5 weeks to do it, and it came together at all is kind of a miracle. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, this guy, we hear about like his first day at Atari, and he's like, I mean, in like the drug culture that was going on, and just the party atmosphere, and the way that like these engineers were treated like rock stars, and they could just do no wrong. And you hear from some of the executives that were working at Atari at the time, and that sort of thing. And I think that there's such a the idea in 2015 to be completely, or even 2014 when the film was made, to be non-reflexively worshipful of Silicon Valley is kind of one of these big issues that I would have with the film. It's kind of this big, the unquestioned idea that, like, yes, the Silicon Valley culture is something that we should be unabashedly in favor of. Yeah. I'm on a computer right now when I'm recording this podcast, Lee, and I certainly would not complain about anybody's love of things from the 80s as I do a Doctor Who podcast in my other spare time, mm-hmm. or embracing the things that you loved as a child. I don't have an issue with any of that, but I do have an issue with fetishizing that into a something that has taking these things and turning it into something that is just a reflexive, non-examined good. And the fact that, like, treating like the birth of Silicon Valley as something in that culture, which all of the kind of toxic stuff that's created for the cities in which Silicon Valley, if you're a poor person in San Francisco, you're basically being forced out of your city because you can't afford to live there anymore. And the toxic culture, I mean, you hear about like some of these parties that they were having at Atari in the early 80s were basically Wolf of Wall Street level, coke-fueled binges. I mean, they literally were like, and I really wish that we had heard from, like, they'd talk about, oh, we had all these women that were always just hanging around and that were just like available to us. And I really wish, like, if you're going to make a film about that, let's go interview someone. Like, let's go dig them up, and let's go hear some, like, what was your perspective? Let's go hear not from like, oh, you're this like heroic game programmer guy that made some of the best games that are ever made. Like, let's put this into a larger context. And I think that it's that like fetishizing of the 80s that I think Ernest Cline, the guy driving around in the DeLorean, gets a lot of much needed flack for, I think. But also feeds into the next film that I watched, which was Kung Fury.
Yeah.
I know you saw that one, and it very much is exactly what it claims to be. There's no issue in terms of like trying to pretend that this is not just a complete. This is what the 80s would have been like if there was CGI. This is the fevered wet dream fantasy of the 80s writ large. And I mean, it is very much, it comes from that same kind of mentality that the Atari movie does, and that it is this fetishizing of these aesthetics or of this time period, without any kind of, I mean, there's no story to Kung Fury. There's no narrative at all. It's kind of a goofy thing. It's 30 minutes long, and boy, did I feel every one of those 30 minutes. It is, you're either kind of on board with this aesthetically or you're not. I feel like it's sort of like this Kung Fury really is, and especially since the filmmaker intended to make a 90-minute film and then couldn't make it because he didn't have the Kickstarter money.
I'm so glad he couldn't make a 90-minute film.
I mean, it really is like people complain about something like Scott Pilgrim and say, oh, it's just this line of 80s video game references and that sort of thing, but there's a story in Scott Pilgrim. There's a narrative. Like, there's a reason that you come back to that, and it's not just and I feel like that some people just kind of lose that thread and just kind of go, well, if it's got kind of these cool images and cool gags, and some of the gags are really good. I'm not going to complain about the gags, but you've got to have like a narrative. Like, you've got to have something to justify me sitting and watching this. it is exactly what it is. I didn't hate Kung Fury, but man, 30 minutes was all I wanted of that.
That's all I wanted of it too. I mean, I felt after watching it, if this went any longer, it just would have been a fucking chore to sit through. Like, it just would have been so tedious. I cite one of my favorite movies of the year. It's going to be on my top list, Turbo Kid. You want to see the sort of retro 80s sort of fetish thing done to perfection and actually sort of sprinkled in a movie with an actual narrative and an actual point, then Turbo Kid is the way to go. That's the way.
I'll try to get that watched before the end of the year, so I can chat about that with you. Yeah.
And Paul's here. How you doing, sir?
Hello.
Did you just wake up or what? What the fuck's going on?
I woke up a little late to get where I am now. Yes. So
I figured you might have, because I saw earlier in the day that you had 4 hours of sleep after drinking excessively, and I figured you probably went to start drink excessively even more during that day. So.
Yeah. I don't know what time I went to bed, but it was something like 3 or 4 p.m. today.
Nice.
I had a little nap, and now I'm ready to rock and roll.
All right, awesome. So we're just going through stuff we watched, and Daniel's still got to finish up his list here. So
I've got 2 more, and I'll try to make them quick because I know this is going on very long, but it is supposed to just be a hangout kind of show.
Yeah.
The next film I watched was Killing Them Softly. This is the Andrew Dominik, who directed the assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford a few years ago, which was one of my favorite films of that year. A few years ago, or a couple of years ago, made this film Killing Them Softly, and this is another one that's on Netflix. Have you seen this, Lee?
I have seen it, and I'm not a big fan, honestly.
No, I'm not either. This is I thought this would be an interesting one to chat about just for a minute, because I think it is like one of these there's a really effective crime story kind of buried in this film. I really kind of want to read the book it was based on, because it was based on a book from the 70s that looked interesting. But man, Andrew Dominik, the Assassination of Jesse James is a film where it's like the it's almost a tone poem. It's this 3-hour long film that's kind of about this rumination of time and this particular time and place and this particular culture and these particular characters, and you really get this very strong sense of how these activities are affecting everyone, and that sort of thing. And this is reaching for that, but it's doing it in the most pretentiously loves the smell of its own farts way possible. And it's connecting these events to the bank bailouts at the time that the film was being made was during the 2008 presidential election in the U.S. And so you just have these long sequences where characters are driving up to to do a bank to do a robbery, and you have audio from Bush bailing out the banks, sort of things, and it's so misplaced in context, because I understand that Andrew Dominik thought he was making some larger point out of this little crime story, but at the same time it's so just ham-fistedly just shoved in there that it detracts from the film. There's supposedly a 2.5-hour cut of this originally.
Oh, Jesus Christ! I don't want to see that.
I mean, I can't even imagine. I mean, an hour and 37 minutes is the running time of the finished version, and I don't hate the film. I think there's some real stuff to admire about it. James Gandolfini, just for one thing, although his story kind of goes nowhere, and then it just kind of trails off, and then it just. He shot his load, and then it just dribbled out onto the floor, and then that was the end of the James Gandolfini character. From, I don't know. It is. I do wonder if the longer cut kind of connects some of this stuff up a little bit better, and you get a better sense of kind of where things are going. But I can't imagine that. I can't imagine that a longer cut is actually going to improve this.
I can't see it because it was such a fucking chore to watch it as is. I honestly rented it on DVD. I watched it. It put me to fuck to sleep. I fucking fell asleep watching the fucking film, and I had to sit and start it over, and even then I was about ready to nod off. I watched this and I'm like, okay, I've seen all of these underworld characters making sort of witty remarks and stuff in every Tarantino film in the last 15 years. I like the actors, I like the idea of the story, but I'm sitting here and I'm watching Ray Liotta play the same fucking scumbag mafia character he's been playing for the last 20, maybe even 30 years at this point, and the story really didn't go anywhere. It just lingered on and on. And I get it. Brad Pitt's killing people. Okay, can we get on with it? No, we can't get on with it.
I feel like this is really the sort of thing where Dominic's directorial style just really gets in the way of this. Because if you're gonna do this, you've got to do it like almost handheld, rough, gritty, over the shoulder kind of like, if you're going to do these kind of gangster cliches, at least kind of do them in a kind of verite style, or do it in some kind of. But if you're trying to do this kind of big, more intellectual version of this, where you're really trying to like connect it into these bigger themes of betrayal or whatever, you really gotta like, in some sense, there's got to be more meat on these bones. I mean, there's just not enough to this crime story to justify the thematic work. And then the camera work is all about trying to justify this thematic stuff instead of like putting us in the moment, and it's just distracting. I mean, there's this very artfully done set piece towards the middle where a certain person gets killed in a car, where Brad Pitt shoots this guy into through a window, and some car crashing stuff happens. And it's very effectively shot, but it's also like, why is this in this film? Like, there's no reason for this except for the director just wanted to jerk off on the screen for a while. So I'm definitely interested in whatever else Andrew Dominik wants to make, but man, this was not a good film.
It was just the wrong subject matter for him. I think it was just a misfire on every level. But
one more, I promise. I'm almost done.
Yeah, go ahead.
City of the Dead.
Nice.
Also known as Horror Hotel, I think. From 1960, the very first of the kind of the proto-Amicus film. Mm-hmm. And the reason I'm watching these Amicus films is so that I can listen to the City of the Dead podcast, which is maybe a little bass backwards in terms of like where most people would want to watch the film and then like, oh, listen to them. But I love James and Holly so much that I'm like, I need to watch these films just so I can listen to their podcast. So I watched City of the Dead, and I would highly recommend their podcast about City of the Dead because they got way more. It's an excellent episode at that, and go check out that podcast and the film. The film's in the public domain, so it was on YouTube. So I just sat down and I watched it. It's about 85 minutes long, I think. Mm-hmm. Maybe 90. I feel like it borrows very heavily from Psycho, but it's made in the same year as Psycho. So I don't know that. I mean, it feels like that maybe they were both kind of coming at stuff from the same direction. I don't know that the filmmakers would have had the chance to see Psycho before they wrote this film. But
it's hard to say because even as much as people want to applaud Alfred Hitchcock and say what a genius he is for Psycho, a lot of the stuff he did in Psycho was actually a reaction to William Castle's films. Of the period. So, I mean, and no one actually wanted to give money to Alfred Hitchcock to make Psycho. They were all like, we don't want to see this shit. And
right.
So he actually basically paid for it himself. He used sets from his TV show to fucking film for that film. Yep. So this was like Alfred Hitchcock, like who was like the auteur of the time. Basically, people were considering he's kind of slumming it almost. So.
Right.
Who knows where he drew all of his influences from at that point, and it might just be one of those things, of course, where Hollywood, where everyone all of a sudden is making sort of the same script at the same time, right? So. Yeah,
I mean, it very clearly is kind of, I kind of view it as City of the Dead and Psycho are both kind of coming at the same general sort of idea from just very different directions. I mean, it's not the same film. It's just it kind of has that same. Spoiler alert, it has a twist in the middle where the person who thinks the hero ends up being kind of the first victim. Yeah. And then it's the second half of the film is about the consequences from that. I think where Psycho is elevated, it's because it has that, just the brilliant Anthony Perkins performance. And, the Hitchcock's direction just elevates, it's not the material, it's the way the material is handled.
Mhm.
City of the Dead is not nearly as good a film as Psycho, but I think it's equally interesting in a lot of cool ways. And again, I would just point you towards the podcast called City of the Dead, and hopefully Lee will provide a link in the show notes to that.
I can't remember if I've linked it on the sidebar or not in the Podbean site. If I haven't, I will. So.
Yeah. But definitely go check out the episode 1 of that podcast. If you watch this film, City of the Dead, and then go listen to their episode, because it's just what they had to say. I wouldn't have anything to add to it. It's just it's just a great.
I'm enjoying their podcast quite a bit. I mean, they just did an episode on The Skull, which is one of my favorite Amicus films, and it's just a fantastic look at it.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit and watch all the Amicus films in order, just so I can listen. Just so I get to watch. It's Trad Dad, I think, is the second one, and then just for fun, it's the third one, and then the Dalek film, that'll be the fourth one,
and then they start getting into the horror shit. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna follow along with them, because I think most of these are in the public domain, so you can just watch them. So
they are. City of the Living Dead. You can find it on all kinds of public domain releases. Yeah. Paul, you've seen that one, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a long time ago, but I have a couple copies of it.
Yeah, it's got Christopher Lee in it. Yeah.
Christopher Lee's in it, and like 3 scenes, but he's in it.
He's in it.
It's got a pretty blonde girl. She's in it. She wears lingerie during a pivotal scene towards the middle of the film, and they're pretty entertaining. I mean, it's actually a really good film. I will say that I kind of got to the end and I started any kind of horror isn't my genre, so I kind of get to the end and I'm kind of all right. I'm ready to move on from this.
Yeah.
But it really does have this really great climax. It does work really well, and there are some themes that you can tease out of it, and that's kind of why I keep recommending the podcast, because I think it's they do a really good job of analyzing that to much more detail than I would personally. So.
Yeah, they're great. Yeah.
And those are the 7 films I watched in about 18 hours. So,
awesome. Paul, is there anything you've been watching lately that you want to mention?
Well, my DVD player broke, so I'm back to VHS. It threw me back into the 90s. So we're just in VHS. I watched Kolchak, the Night Stalker.
Nice.
I have the episode of Vampire and Werewolf, so I watched those. Then it was I pulled out my Cemetery Man, because It's been a while since I actually sat down and watched it. Fright Night 2, Maniac Cop 2, what else?
We should review the first Maniac Cop on this podcast at some point.
Yeah, we should.
Let's do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you fucking brutes.
Yeah. Trying to remember what else I watched Dracula, Prince of Darkness, another Christopher Lee goodie.
Nice.
And I watched a documentary from Hammer called Vamps, all about the female vampire.
Oh, so all the lesbian stuff they did.
Yeah. Hosted, of course, by Oliver Reed.
Yeah, well, if you want the most alcoholic, masculine British character actor you can find from that period, then Oliver Reed's the dude.
Oliver Reed's your man. There you go. I didn't watch too much stuff and whatever I did watch, I was watching it and drinking, so I forgot most of it. But I know last night when I sat down in front of the TV, they were watching Cops Like Us, I think it's called. Bromance comedy about 2 guys pretending to be police officers, and then.
Oh, isn't it called Let's Be Cops? Isn't that?
Is it Let's Be Cops? Yeah, Let's Be Cops. Yeah. That was It was a feel good movie, which I have no idea what a good feeling is anymore at this point in time in my life. So I just wanted that to get over with pretty fast. Then I watched Austin Powers, something I can relate to at least a little bit more.
That's fair.
An awkward man from another era in this new age environment. I could get that. I can get behind that. But it was pretty good. It was really fun going back and watching Austin Powers, because I was like, yes, I like it. I just remember liking it just as much as I liked it the first time I watched it.
All right, did you watch the first one or one of the sequels?
Yeah, it was the first one.
The first one is the best. Like clearly,
Mm-hmm.
I just have a visceral response to any film that has a socially awkward hairy man getting lots of tail. It seems to be
Exactly. Works out well.
I have this immediate response to that.
See, the second one, it immediately makes me hate it because it totally throws the first one out the window, where Vanessa turns out to be a fembot, and I was like, I felt cheated. I felt, fuck this movie. And then all of a sudden, Heather Graham in tight clothing, and I was like, okay, I can get with it.
I mean, Elizabeth Hurley, Heather Graham, we're gonna...
Yeah, I mean, Heather Graham, one of the few blondes I really like, so, okay, I can work with it.
Yeah, I mean, really,
Yeah,
Roller
well,
Girl was the better role for her, though, I'm just gonna... put that out there.
Yeah.
Kicked right in the face. Kick him right in the face. But the last thing I just got done watching was Lee wasting a beer because he didn't age it for 5 years first.
Yeah, well, go fuck yourself, because I don't give a fuck about my YouTube audience anymore. They can go fuck themselves. Let's put it right out there right now.
What did you drink, Lee?
I drank Fuller's Vintage Ale 2015, and it says you can age it for 10 years, and I drank it, and it tastes like fucking Fuller's London Pride, and there's no way in 10 years it's going to taste any better than it does fresh.
You are so wrong.
I am so right. This beer is not barley wine like the previous vintages. They made a point of writing on the fucking box that instead of going out of our way to look for awesome ingredients to make this beer super awesome, instead we made it an alcoholic version of Fuller's fucking London Pride, because it's like all we did was use Maris Otter and a couple British hops. Oh wow, how fucking exciting!
Isn't that kind of funny? Isn't that the one thing you would never want to write on the side of a box?
Pretty much.
Instead of trying giving a fuck, we just went, fuck it, just booze it up, baby.
They made the pretenses of 50 years of the British brewing industry or something for some specific, I guess probably Maris Otter.
When you read between the lines. Actually, that line reminded me. I also watched Time Cop.
Jean-Claude Van Damme doing splits. Yeah, okay.
I think of that as the Mia Sara movie that wasn't Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That's kind of how I think of that movie.
Yeah, and you got to see her tits, and I was like, yeah, tits. But Ferris was there first, man. He was there first.
That sociopath got into her panties first. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
right.
That's true. Paul, have you seen Dirty Mary, Crazy Larry by chance?
No.
Oh man, we need to do that film.
We need to do it. It's on Netflix, and I'm sure we can find it on YouTube. It's probably public domain, really, probably.
Probably, yeah.
Sounds fun.
But it's a Peter Fonda chase movie from the 60s or early
70s, 71.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just about everything Peter Fonda did back in that period was pretty good. So.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. All right, so I'll just jump in quickly to some of the stuff I've been watching. Daniel mentioned earlier he either had a choice of watching a bunch of movies or actually watching a TV series. I watched the Jessica Jones series on Netflix.
I watched the first episode of that before I came on this show, and damn. Yeah. Go ahead, Lee. Sorry, I'm talking too much, but I'm just throwing that out there. Damn.
Yeah. I mean, first off, the main character plays the woman who plays Jessica Jones. She looks like Eliza Dushku.
She looks better than Eliza Dushku. She can act.
Yeah, she can. Yeah.
Her name is Kristen Ritter, and I've been in love with her since the very first shot she's in of Breaking Bad. So she was also in Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23, which is a fun little comedy, sitcom from the mid-2000s.
But this series is awesome. I got to say, I'm sort of getting sick of the Marvel films, but the fucking TV series are awesome because they can actually do an R-rated series. This is the only thing they don't show is full frontal nudity. Essentially, that's pretty much the only thing they don't do in these series. But other than that, everything fucking goes. They're throwing the F-bombs. They're doing sort of hard R violence in most of these series. Daredevil and Jessica Jones, and fuck yeah, this was a great series. Great seeing David Tennant basically playing the anti-rapist Doctor Who.
Yeah. No, I've only seen the first episode, but from what I've read, it's definitely I'm looking forward to this.
I won't spoil anything for you, but it's a great story. It works really well. I guess the source material, the Jessica Jones comic, apparently is fairly adult for a Marvel comic in the first place. It definitely does deal with issues of like rape and stuff like that. But yeah, David Tennant is just you watch him in this, and it's like, wow, that guy was Doctor Who, because he is incredibly fucking creepy and nasty in this fucking series. And it's great. It just works really well. It just subtly hints towards Daredevil and some of the other stuff in the films. It doesn't rely on the built universe that they've done with Marvel and everything like that. It's its own thing. It does sort of noir very well, and it's just really entertaining. And I gotta say, I will say this: you don't want to get close to Jessica Jones because you're gonna die probably. Let's put it that way. There's a lot of surprising moments in this series.
I was watching the first episode and I kept thinking, isn't this like Veronica Mars all grown up? I mean, isn't this kind of the same story? I mean that in a good way, because kind of the clever, like slightly tortured, lead character. I've also seen people describe it as post-traumatic stress disorder, the series. So
pretty much. You'll find she's a little bit more slightly tortured as the series goes on too.
Yes.
Yeah. It's pretty fucking good. It's definitely worth watching. I know there's like a lot of hype around these Marvel TV series, but so far, fucking Jessica Jones and Daredevil have both been fucking awesome. And I say bring on fucking Luke Cage and the fucking Iron Fist. I want to see them. They're fucking great. It's fucking great, man. It's really well done. And I think it benefits from the fact that they have like multiple writers and directors doing these series, as opposed to where you have like one or two people locked down for the fucking movies. And it feels like Marvel kind of gives them a bit more leeway on the Netflix series than they do the fucking movies, even though they still have their sort of set plan where you got to follow like the Marvel's set plan for their movie universe or whatever. This one, it seems like they're more open to this, like telling their own little self-contained stories. They don't have to necessarily have any great effect on their overall big overarching thing. So it's a lot more interesting.
The Marvel films, and I'll be honest here, I've been a big fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I'm a big fan of it because of the fandom around it, much more so than the universe itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of one of those where you listen to the way that fans talk about these series, and kind of the like one of my favorite internet memes ever is bisexual Steve Rogers. It's just one of those things. There is like I am of the headcanon that the Marvel Cinematic Universe Steve Rogers is canonically bisexual. Like, it's just one of those things. And I mean, it just fits with the character so well. I'm down for that. But it's totally something that like came out of fan culture. Like, it's not something that like the filmmakers ever said so. It's just something that just comes out of like people interpreting glances in particular ways, and interpreting the character in these ways. And I'm a big fan of that. And increasingly, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is just kind of buried under its own weight. Well, when you're making these $200 million tentpole films, and like all these films are supposed to take place within like a few months of each other, and that sort of thing. I mean, it definitely starts to feel, the logical inconsistencies. The minute you start to take it remotely seriously at this point, it just kind of falls under its own weight. But the TV series are, because they're allowed to exist in these in the liminal space, in this kind of in between this kind of bigger universe, and you're allowed to see kind of what the ordinary people of this world act like. Mm-hmm. Is much, much more interesting, and you don't have to justify $200 million worth of budget to do it.
Yeah.
Which I think is really the key. For me.
So you're saying deep down, like the scenes you don't see, you see Tony Stark secretly thinking, "Yeah, Captain America, throw your mighty shield at me."
I think Tony and Steve, I don't necessarily buy. I mean, they're not the couple I would go with. I think that Steve and Sam are definitely a couple. I think that Steve and Black Widow have a very nice fetish relationship. Personally, that's sort of my headcanon. But I think he's really looking for a sweet farm boy to bed down with, permanently. That's sort of where I land on that.
All right, and I'll move on. I'll move on to...
I had no idea what you guys were talking about for the last hour.
That's great. That's awesome.
It's sorry I didn't say anything. I just wasn't involved.
Couple movies I saw. Like I mentioned, the director of Crazy Mary, Dirty Larry, or whatever. He also did The Legend of Hell House, from 1973.
Roddy McDowall.
Yes. I watched that on Netflix the other day. I hadn't seen that in a long, long time, so I revisited it, and damn, it's refreshing to see a good fucking haunted house movie these days, where, you know, it's not all dependent on fucking jump scares and bullshit. This was much more in line with, like, the original The Haunting from the 60s.
Yeah.
It's just slightly updated, a little bit more special effects than The Haunting, because The Haunting only has, like, one special effect, and that's that scene with where the door bulges in and out or whatever. But, man, really well done.
It's a little dark. My VHS that I have is a little dark. I don't know what was your copy like?
Well, the one I saw on Netflix was all cleaned up, so it looked really good. And man, I love that film. It's just really well done. I don't want to get too much into spoilers because I think we'll probably cover it at some point.
Probably my favorite haunted house film, as far as the old film or more films go, is 13 Ghosts, the original 13 Ghosts.
I have that. That's pretty good too.
I really like that one.
That's a pretty innovative film for its time too. I mean, it had the William Castle gimmicks in it, but they worked pretty well, I think. And
when the bed comes down to suffocate her and stuff like that. I like that film a lot.
Yeah. Another one I saw the recent James Bond film, Spectre.
I just saw Casino Royale.
Did you? What did you think of that?
I thought it was.
How do you like Woody Allen's performance in that?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, just in case you're confused there, Paul, there was an original Casino Royale.
Yeah, I know. I watched the new one.
Okay.
I'm like, no, that's not the one I got. I didn't have coffee today, so I'm not up to beat yet. I'll slam my dick in this drawer for a while and wake up. I need to. I liked Casino Royale, but it was weird because it didn't start off. I didn't think it really started off as like the Bond films that I remember, because I've never watched a new Bond film. I only watched the first 3 actors. I've never watched any of the new ones. So it was more just like an action-packed adrenaline ride kind of a film at the beginning, and I'm like, okay, we'll just do this the whole time. But then later, it got a little bit more, swarzy, a little bit more like this. But the new Bond, Daniel Craig, I don't really give a fuck. I'm not here to, get laid. I'm here to kill people, kind of an attitude, which is pretty different to see a Bond that doesn't. He threw out a couple one-liners, but it wasn't the Bond that I was used to. But it was good.
Yeah, well, the thing about Daniel Craig's Bond is, especially in Casino Royale, that basically threw the standard Bond movie out the window. I mean, it sort of reinvented it quite a bit. I mean, the series eventually got back more to traditional Bond films as it progressed. But Daniel Craig, if you've ever read the source material for Bond, he is actually probably the closest, and he's actually my favorite Bond. He's the closest to the actual source material that's ever been put on screen outside of like Timothy Dalton.
I'm still waiting for somebody to drive a Bentley, though. The books are Bentleys, And, but I wasn't really happy when he took the Land Rover and Range Rover and ran it to the Jag. I wasn't very happy about that.
Yeah, well, you have some nasty feelings about Jags, though.
I know. That's true. Yeah. I mean, there could have been a BMW there he could have ran into or something better, but
Yeah.
Other than that, it was pretty interesting. The only thing that I thought was a little odd right at the end of the movie when I immersed myself into it, he called her a bitch at the end, and I was like, come on, you're better than that. Come on, you're better.
Well, that's the thing. James Bond's character isn't better than that. He's actually a psychopath. Like he is like as written in the actual books. As much as he is sort of a interesting pulp character that you get behind and be interested in, he's a straight up misogynist psychopath.
Well, the I Don't Even Own a Television podcast, the Bad Book podcast that I listen to religiously, they just did the Casino Royale book.
Yeah.
And exposed the fact that Bond in the original book is basically everybody's least favorite uncle. complaining about how terrible his uncomfortable sandals are, and explaining Baccarat in the most condescending way possible, and falling in love with a woman after meeting her for 2 minutes. So
well, that's how I got my wife. It was just like boom.
I always assumed that was like kind of an online bride thing, you know.
Yeah. No, after I untied her and stuff like that, she began to like me after that too. So it kind of worked out. I was more just complaining he should have used the word cunt instead of bitch. I mean, I thought he was a little fancier than that. You know, just anybody could say bitch.
But yeah, the Bond for the books, he's especially early on, and I think this is the thing that the film series got really well in the first film, is that he's just starting into the 00 program. Before then, he was just a really highly skilled assassin, but he's also pretty much a base thug at the same time. Mm-hmm. And he makes mistakes. That's I think that's the important part of the film that kind of demystifies like the previous Bond films. And then in these films, he fucks up, he makes mistakes. By the time they got to Skyfall, he was getting older, he was broken down. He wasn't as good as some of the other agents as far as his physicals go, and the only thing that sort of made him win the day was the fact that he was just a tougher motherfucker than anybody else out there. Other than that, he still fucked up and made mistakes.
I mean, like he fucked up through the whole movie. I mean, he did, like especially like around the table. He fucked up every chance he had. It seemed.
Yeah,
but he still kind of worked it through. I guess just because of tenacity. I guess.
And in the last film, Skyfall, they sort of got back to sort of the standard James Bond formula to some degree, just a small degree, and it was really good. It was really refreshing. Here they even do it a bit more so in Spectre, and it's done really well. I will say, the complaints you see people saying the film's too fucking long, it is too fucking long. It's 2.5 fucking hours. It shouldn't be 2.5 hours. It's the longest James Bond film that's ever been made. And it did not need to be that long. Like, if you look back at all the other James Bond films throughout its history, it feels like those films, they cut all the fat out of them. They go boom, boom, boom to the next thing, to the next thing. There's no real lingering bullshit that you have to wade through. This one has a lot. Yeah, this one has a lot of crap in it. It really does have a lot of crap in it. But it's still good.
My wife and I we never watched them growing up, but one of these days I just decided, I'm like, we gotta watch this. Donald Pleasant's in it, Christopher Lee's in it, we gotta watch this shit. So we sat down and started watching all the Bond films, and we couldn't believe how amazingly watchable they were. Like, this doesn't bore me at all. I am completely enamored with the film the whole time. So I can understand what you're saying about, you know, they cut the fat out, they made them trim so it's easily be watchable, because it was. My wife even said how easily watchable they were.
Yeah.
And now this one being so long, I think you'd have to be indebted to it a little bit or whatever.
Yeah, this one pays off the previous films. It does. Like the whole Daniel Craig series is kind of connected together, and it pays off really well in the end. It is too long, but Daniel Craig's still really fucking good, really, really engaging. Christoph Waltz makes a great Blofeld. He does a really fucking great job. They even put nods back to the Donald Pleasant's Blofeld near the end of the film, which is really nice. I really enjoyed that. Mm-hmm. And overall, it was actually a pretty satisfying conclusion to the whole Daniel Craig James Bond films. So I can't complain too much, but you gotta know going in that it's going to be a long slog through. Though it's 2.5 hours, so gotta be prepared for that.
The only other one that I really wanted to see, as far as the actors goes, I'd like to check out the one Timothy Dalton did.
Timothy Dalton's really good too. He did two films, and one of them's not quite as good as the other one. His first one was really good. The second one story really sucked. But Timothy Dalton's also kind of like Daniel Craig, where he's sort of more of a tough, rugged, take no prisoners kind of Bond. He's not so much the suave ladies' man who's making quips and shit. He's actually, getting dirty with the bad guys, getting his fist bloody and stuff like that. So he's pretty entertaining. It's pretty good.
I don't want to execute him before I watch the film, but the Pierce Brosnan ones, I'm not really too into watching those. I can't get past Mrs. Doubtfire in my head. Well, I see Mrs. Doubtfire. I can't do it.
What the irony is that Pierce Brosnan's first Bond was directed by Martin Campbell, who also directed Casino Royale.
Oh, there you go. I thought you were going to say Mrs. Doubtfire for a second.
No, I mean, it is like you watch those two side by side, and you're just like, man, this is the same fucking director. And then after doing Casino Royale, he went on to direct Green Lantern.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, no.
Martin Campbell should not be trusted with CGI environments. That's really what we learned.
I guess, yeah, or Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds just should not be near him.
I came home Christmas Eve night. I saw sleigh and reindeer in the light. I snuck around the window to see Santa naked with my woman under the tree. Boys and girls, don't you cry. Get over this by and by. That old buzzard won't be coming to your town. I'm the one who gunned Santa down. So right away, from his toy sack, he pulled out a gun and he said, "Get back." A couple of elves grabbed me and said, "Be kind." Santa put on his clothes and he patted my girl on the butt. He gave her a peck on the cheek. Damn you, I said. Damn you, you'll never get away with this, you fat boys and girls, don't you cry. You'll get over this, by and by. That old buzzard won't be coming to your town. 'Cause I'm the one who gunned Santa down. Yes, it was me. He threw down some gifts and said with a sneer, "Since I had your woman, I guess I owe you a beer." He gave me a bottle of Old St. Nick Red. I took a big swig and cracked it over his head. "Oh! Oh!" he screamed. "Oh!" That's when I grabbed his gun and I jumped behind the tree. Oh! Find him! Find him! Find him, you little incompetent elf! Santa bleeding, he moved quick as a fox. He grabbed an Uzi from a brightly colored box. He started screaming and shooting everything in sight. He shot that sleazy woman of mine and a few of his elves, a couple of his reindeer. I knew I had to do something, so I shot back. He took two in the belly and one in the sack. It was bleeding and limping, crawling to his sleigh. I know it sounds mean, but I couldn't let him get away. No, what he did to me. No. He yelled on Dasher and Dancer. I gunned them both down to make them go slow. As the sleigh moved slowly into the air, I pulled the trigger and saw a puff of white hair. A few bleeding elves cut loose the dead reindeer, threw a sheet over Santa slumped over in the sleigh, and Christmas would never be the same since that day. I'm the one who gunned Santa down. I'm the one who gunned Santa down. Yes, I'm the one who gunned Santa down. I'm the one who gunned Santa down. Yeah, it was me. Sorry, kids. Yes, it was me. Was me.
All right, so we're going to get to the sort of the main thrust of this episode, I guess. Holiday films. Again, it was just the Americans. You guys had your Thanksgiving just the other day, and we're approaching the Christmas season, and of course we had Halloween before that. So we decided we're just going to do sort of a general chat on holiday films, throw out some films that we like and want to talk about. So. Buck, I'll just throw over to Daniel if you want to start throwing out a couple of films you want to mention.
Sure. Well, I'll start with possibly the greatest Thanksgiving scene of all time, which I'm just going to say is the in Addams Family Values, the great pageant, the thing that the kids do, attacking the white people for destroying the Native Americans. I think that is. That clip is on YouTube. I watch it every year right around this time. I saw the film recently, so I just want to not even the movie is great, but that scene is really like worth just watching by itself. So I'm just going to throw that out there as my first thing, and then I'm going to name the single greatest Christmas movie ever made, and that is Die Hard.
Yep.
Nice.
My favorite Christmas movie is Gremlins.
That was number 2 for me. So
Okay, so we're close.
But I had to throw Die Hard out there before anybody else got to it. So that's the one. When I think Christmas movie, I think barefoot Bruce Willis killing terrorists. It's just it's just a thing.
Cutting his feet on glass,
Cutting his feet on glass,
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Reginald VelJohnson killing a Swedish man at the end.
Yeah, playing the inept cop for the entire film before he actually gets to do something. That's great.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But I really like Bruce Willis in some ways, and in other ways I kind of loathe the motherfucker. So I get perverse joy out of seeing him chop his feet up on glass at the same time as saving the day. So it's a good balance right there.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, and Alan Rickman's first film role.
Yeah,
so,
Alan Rickman.
Yeah, amazing. And he was in his 40s when he got his first role.
He was like 40 years old, 41, something like that. Yeah.
And he just went on to be fucking awesome.
Yeah, I heard a story from the one guy. He said he was at a little family get together, and then he thinks that he's being stereotyped, but the one kid there goes, "Uncle Alan, why do you always play bad guys?" And he looked at him and goes, "I don't play bad guys. I play very interesting people."
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, there you go."
And that's a great mentality too. It's sort of something that transfers directly from the mentality of people in professional wrestling who play heels professionally. The best ones are the ones who believe they're right. The best villains are the ones who believe they're in the right, and they're the more interesting villains. So, I mean, you look at Alan Rickman's character in Die Hard, he doesn't believe he's a bad guy. He thinks everything he's doing is justified and he's right, and that's what makes him an interesting villain. So
yeah.
Well, I mean, he's just a thief, and that's like I'm just stealing money. Fuck off. I'm ripping off this massive corporation, and I mean, really, there is now. I kind of want to do an alternate reading of Die Hard where Alan Rickman was the hero the whole time.
Well,
basically,
Alan Rickman was Robin Hood.
I mean, yeah, that's kind of like you can totally see like the Japanese taking over Los Angeles, and then Alan Rickman coming in and being like, "Fuck you guys, I'm taking your $150 million or whatever."
He's gonna spread the wealth. Who cares if a couple of yuppies eat a fucking gun?
I mean, really, if you're talking about some of those characters in that movie who end up dying, deserve to die. I'm sorry, you're a rich fucking asshole. Really, Bruce Willis's character just got in the way, because if it hadn't been for Bruce Willis, everything would have ended peacefully. They would have just stolen all the money. Like,
And the one guy would play a perfect Little John.
Yeah.
The one that dies with the chain around his neck. So that works.
Oh
out
yeah,
good.
the big blonde Swedish guy or whatever. Yeah. And Bruce Willis, really, he's just sort of the status quo that gets in the way. Is essentially what he is. He just brings everything back to the status quo. So he's not necessarily.
He's really he is the cop, like the New York cop coming in and really
he's the sheriff of Nottingham. He ruined it.
He's the voice of the establishment, like refusing to allow radical leftist politics to level the playing field for the oppressed minorities.
He tried to make the world a better place, and you just ruined it. Way to go. So Bruce Willis is the greatest villain of all time.
I'm sure Kevin Smith would actually agree with that one.
Yeah, well, just based on Cop Out, so.
Yeah, awesome.
Man, now I totally want to cover Die Hard on this show, and I'm gonna bring that perspective to it. I think we can do that. Yeah,
we could.
I like it. I like it.
And then Die Hard 2, Fred Thompson's in that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and he just died, right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he just died last week, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry, completely beside the point. Another Christmas movie.
Yeah, I actually like Die Hard 2 as well, but that one got shit on because that one amped the violence up. It got even more bloody and brutal.
Yeah, I don't much like Die Hard 2, but the first one's a classic.
My favorite Die Hard is With a Vengeance. Actually, I like that one quite a bit.
Really?
Yeah, I like that one quite a bit.
Is that part 3?
Yeah, part 3.
Yeah.
With Samuel L. Jackson and.
Why do you keep calling me Hey Zeus? My name is Hey Zeus. Like motherfucking bolt lightning up your ass. I'm like, okay. He's just yelling. He's saying that's what he does. He just yells.
That was still the period where every director wanted to get Sam Jackson in to be the black guy who yells a lot in their film.
He just yells, yeah. He's not acting. He's just yelling.
This was pre-Pulp Fiction, so this was like the era when Samuel Jackson was just like that, like the black guy that's in a movie. Then once Pulp Fiction happened, suddenly he's a star. So this is that was that era. My favorite Sam Jackson role is, or one of my favorite Sam Jackson moments is the fact that he's in Goodfellas.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute, Samuel Jackson was in Goodfellas, and all he does is get shot in the head. That is literally Samuel Jackson's role in Goodfellas.
Well, he does almost the exact same role in True Romance. He's briefly in True Romance too, where he gets gunned down.
Well, what about Coming to America? He was at McDowell's. He had the shotgun.
That's right. We're far afield from holiday movies at this point, but I don't really care.
Yeah, who gives a shit?
There's holidays in all those movies.
Yeah. Fuck it, what was I going to say?
I can just do it easy.
I like Sam Jackson in Die Hard 3. I liked. I think the best part of that was. I think the best part of that movie was Sam Jackson, Jeremy Irons, and the scene where Bruce Willis has to walk through Harlem with a sign saying "I hate niggers."
I hate niggers. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And he saves the day. Saves the day. I'm tired of all these motherfucking terrorists in this motherfucking bank.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Yeah.
Bruce Willis just wears that sign in general now. Like he wasn't that wasn't for the movie. He was just.
I thought that was Mel Gibson that wears that sign now.
No, Mel Gibson, it's Kikes. I mean, that's.
Oh, yeah.
Who doesn't date Kikes? I mean, come on, let's go now. Merry Christmas.
You killed Jesus.
Oh, you bastards, sellouts.
And say what you want about Mel Gibson, but I actually think he's a pretty fucking talented director. I think he's actually a really great director, but fucking,
my wife watches the the Amazonian Mayan film he did, and I just can't.
Apocalypto.
She watches that all the time.
I love that film. That's a great chase film.
It's good.
It is. It's really good. It's well done. Like historically, it's bullshit, but just like Braveheart, it's total bullshit. But
what do you mean? What do you mean? That never happened?
No, the stuff in Braveheart, basically 90% of Braveheart never actually happened.
Oh, basically, so
90% conservatively.
Yeah.
But look at his Passion of the Christ. None of that actually happened. So what the hell? Does it really matter? this
Yeah,
point in time.
but Apocalypto is actually a great chase film.
His most
that's
historically
good.
accurate film, Forever Young.
Forever Young. Man Without a Face.
Man Without a Face, yeah.
I love that film. I actually like that film quite a bit.
Okay, more holiday films. Throw them out there.
My favorite is Nightmare Before Christmas.
There you go. Nice.
That's a good one, yeah.
And that's Halloween and Christmas. Boom, right in the same shot. There you go.
2 for 1.
2 for 1.
One that I saw part of yesterday while we were kind of doing the festivities, and I'm definitely going to track down and watch at some point. Home for the Holidays. This was actually Jodie Foster directed this, which is kind of amazing. It's got Holly Hunter. It's got this amazing cast, honestly. But Holly Hunter is the lead, and all I know is she has a shot where you get to see her ass in white panties, and it's amazing. And Robert Downey Jr. is in the film as a gay man, and apparently, I mean, this was made in the mid-'90s when he was in his heroin phase. Mm-hmm. Apparently, in interviews, he said he basically does not remember this film. He was just the entire time. But he's great in it. I mean, it's kind of amazing. And I watched maybe 30 minutes of this film and went, I'm going to have to sit down and watch this at some point. It's one of these dysfunctional families getting together for the holidays sort of thing. Only it's like the dysfunctional members of the family are the ones who are like the good guys, and the normal people, the kind of stuck-up bitch who's the normal person, is the one that's kind of causing friction for everybody. So kind of a nice feel-good holiday film for the masses, I would think. You know.
There was another film like that which reminded me of the Dysfunctional Family. Wasn't it like Two If by Sea or something like that? It had Dennis Leary in it.
Oh, I have not seen that, but that was during the time when Sandra Bullock was in everything.
Yeah, and this piece of shit come out Nova. It's actually a pretty funny film.
Huh.
This Dennis Leary screaming at everybody the whole time. He's kind of like a white, Sam, so that works out well. Okay,
Yeah.
back to Die Hard. Anyway.
Yeah, I like Dennis Leary as film roles, not so much as a comedian, because he basically just ripped off Bill Hicks.
Yeah.
Pretty explicitly, and he's.
I mean, he said a half Bill Hicks and a half George Carlin, and less clever than both. Like that was
There's a great. It was what's that guy Quinlan or whatever the fuck his name is from Saturday Night Live, who had a show for a while.
Colin Quinn.
Colin Quinn, yeah, and he had.
You're thinking of Hank Quinlan from Touch of Evil, my friend.
yeah. This is a kind of a different guy. Colin Quinn, he had that show where he had some
similar weight problems. Sorry, I'm a fat guy. I get to make fun of other people's weight, right?
Colin Quinn, you fat bastard.
Colin Quinn, you conservative right-wing douchebag. I'm gonna make fun of your weight. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, there you go. But he had that show where he had comedians on and stuff, and then there was this. I can't remember who the fuck it was. But someone just basically started throwing it in Dennis Leary's face about how unfunny he was and how much he stole other people's jokes and shit. It was pretty beautiful because Dennis Leary's a piece of garbage as far as that's concerned. But there we go. That's a little aside.
Did Leary do a Christmas movie? I kind of feel like there's a Dennis Leary Christmas movie.
I think he's done Christmas specials. I'm pretty sure he's done that.
I kind of feel like there was one of his crime movies was set during Christmas, but I don't remember.
We'll just say Judgment Night was. How about
with Ice-T.
Yeah.
How about Demolition Man? Was Demolition Man set during Christmas?
Yeah, this is a rap burger. It's pretty good. Yeah.
I don't think they would have had Christmas in the universe of Demolition Man. It would have been too politically incorrect, and it would have hurt someone's feelings. Yeah.
Exactly.
Can we go with another politically incorrect Christmas movie?
Mm-hmm.
Bad Santa.
Bad Santa is fucking
Santa.
great.
You're not gonna shit right for a week.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much my sexual technique, by the way. You're not gonna shit right for a week.
That is the only way to roll, my friend. Pack that flesh.
That is one of the last great Billy Bob Thornton films.
And I think John Ritter's last film. If not his last film, one of his last. Yeah,
and Bernie Mac as well, I think.
Bernie Mac as well, yeah.
Yeah.
Tony Cox is great in that. And Lauren Graham.
Lauren Graham is super fucking hot.
She's so hot in that film. And funny and amazing. She's really good in that film.
Yeah, every time I think of that film, it's fuck me Santa, fuck me Santa, fuck me Santa.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, that's I thought about doing the whole Santa thing this year, and just like if I just wore the hat and just walked around, maybe I could find a Santa fetishist who looked like Lauren Graham. That would be
that would be the best. That would be awesome. That's a great film. You have to see the Badder Santa cut though. Like that's the essential for that.
I don't think I've seen that cut. I saw the film theatrically actually. That's what it was that I actually.
Oh, you gotta get a DVD. Get the Badder Santa. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's. I know that the original cut is on Netflix now. I may have to buy the DVD just to check out the alternate cut. But
yeah, I love that film. It's so fucking mean spirited. Like that. That just jives with my sense of comedy and humor. I like mean spirited comedy.
I kind of want to do that as a double feature with Observe and Report. That's sort of I always connect those two films in my head, You know
what? That's actually a pretty fucking great pairing. Now that you mention it, yeah. Observe and Report is pretty fucking mean spirited as well. So yeah, that's a fucking good combo.
One of my favorite holiday movies that probably won't work with Canada, but is Groundhog Day.
What? We have Groundhog Day in Canada? What the fuck are you talking about?
I just thought you had Moose Day.
No.
Yeah, I'm all fucked up.
Groundhogs. Our groundhogs are less efficient than yours, apparently.
Well, yeah. Oh, okay, good. Well, I love that film, and Groundhog Day is technically a holiday, so
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, as long as we're moving out of the winter holiday season, I mean, let's just talk Independence Day. That's always a great
Welcome to Earth. Welcome to Earth. Oof. I heard they're making an Independence Day too.
Yeah, they are, and thank fuck Will Smith ain't in it. So
that's good.
I mean, that was around the point where Will Smith started getting really annoying, where every movie he was going, "Oh hell no!" And
hell no!
And then he has that scene where he basically just punches out an alien in the desert, and I'm like, okay, this movie's done.
Speaking of a guy who says the same line ever again, punching an alien, I did just watch Predator 2.
Well, Danny Glover is allowed to punch an alien because he's.
And after he said,
Danny Glover can do whatever the fuck he wants because he's Danny Glover.
Getting too old for this shit. I'm like, yes, say it again, Danny.
Yeah, you're getting too old for Predators. Yeah.
Isn't Lethal Weapon set during the Christmas season? I seem to remember so.
Maybe one of them is. Yeah.
Yeah.
And at the end of Predator 2, he gets the gun, a colonial gun, and it says 1776 on it, so that's independence. So there you go, boom.
Yeah, there we go.
We're wrapping all around. There you go.
That's an underrated film, by the way. I actually really love Predator 2.
Die Hard. Yeah, that film is I think just as good as the original.
Yeah, I do too. I think maybe the problem is that maybe Danny Glover isn't quite the strong lead as fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger to some degree, but at the same time, I really like him. I like the different setting. I like the way they did the story. I know it's it's another example of like say like with Die Hard 2, where they amped up the violence and made it more brutal. But I think it works for Predator 2. I think it's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen that in years. I know people shit on that, but I remember liking it when I was like 13 and I saw that film, which probably means it's awesome. Like if I was 13 and liked it, because everything I liked when I was 13 holds up.
It's got Bill Paxton being a douchebag. It's got Gary Busey.
What movie doesn't have Bill Paxton being a douchebag in 1993?
I can't remember. Oh, Bill Paxton, the only person that was killed by the Predator, an alien, and a Terminator.
Exactly. Yeah.
Whenever I think of Bill Paxton, I think of two roles, and we're way off the holiday theme now, but I always think of Frailty and Weird Science. Those are the two that I always think of.
Oh, yeah. He's great in Weird Science, and Frailty is a fucking great movie. That's another underrated fucking film. I can't believe more people don't talk about that film.
Frailty, another film I saw theatrically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I've never seen Frailty. I know it has that kind of
man.
There's a demon in her. Let's cut her up. I have to go probably check it out.
You have to see Frailty, dude. You are missing out big time. That is a great fucking horror movie. It's one of the best fucking films from the 1990s, hands down. Horror and anything else. It's one of the best.
I think that's 2000. I think that's actually
2000. Okay,
the line,
me. What do I know?
Yeah, I know because Ravenous is one of the best from then.
Yeah,
When-
Ravenous is 99, I know, but I think Frailty's 2000.
But I have to say though, I just got done, watching that with Gary Busey, and I watched also Silver Bullet with Gary Busey, and then he had to cancel the fireworks for Independence Day, so wrap it back around, punch an alien in the face.
Another Christmas movie? Can I just
Yeah.
start naming them? National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Okay, yeah, there you go. That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
One of those that like I kind of grew up on, and really that's kind of what we look for in the Christmas movies is like, oh, I grew up on this,
The
like
stuff you watch every year.
stuff that I could kind of sit down and just watch, and I think it's kind of become an underrated classic. I think, at least for me, it's certainly one. I'll be honest, the holiday season, the quote unquote, Thanksgiving to Christmas. I worked retail jobs for 15 years. Fuck Christmas, like that's where I live. It's just a time of year where you're just working all the time and you just hate yourself and hate everybody around you. Hopefully as I get further away from that, I can start to embrace these Christmas films a little bit more. But I do remember growing up and loving Christmas Vacation, but I haven't seen it in a long time.
I like the old guy in it because I actually watched the producers with Mel Brooks' producers, which I love very much, and he's still old. You were never young. He
That's
was
awesome.
his hair happened to be black, so it wasn't gray, but he was old. Look at it. He's old. And he was in the Wings Christmas special, so I'm going to wrap that right back around because I just watched
There you
that.
go. Sweet. Sweet. And he's like one of those actors who always looks like they're old.
He's always been old.
Luis Guzman, who we were talking about in Punch Drunk Love. Like, even in his early roles, he looks like he's fucking 40.
No, it's a thing. It's a thing.
Okay, I'll throw a couple out here. We'll go for Thanksgiving. How about Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? That's
on my list. Yep.
Yeah, that takes place during Thanksgiving. Great fucking, I guess, buddy comedy in a way between Steve Martin and John Candy, and
It's like the Odd Couple and doing a road trip. That's sort of It's the lesser version of Tommy Boy, really. Like let's just land on that.
Yeah.
Well,
But,
I'm always going to be a little kid, so I always do the Peanuts, and the Peanuts pretty much cover almost every holiday to a certain extent. They have little Halloween and Christmas and Thanksgiving, and they have Easter Beagle, and basically I'm always going to be a kid. And I have kids too, so I can glorify my kidness with them, so that's good.
Yeah.
So I always watch those every time.
Yeah.
But I fondly remember. I haven't watched it in a while, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but I fondly remember it. I used to watch it all the time when I was young.
That's a sad thing, me too. I used to watch that growing up all the time, and I haven't watched it in 20 years.
It used to be. I think it used to be like one of those that was in constant rotation on like TBS or whatever. And now that isn't like a way that we watch movies anymore. I think it's fallen out of kind of that like just constantly in our consciousness. But it's one that I'm kind of the same way with Paul. I haven't seen that in years and years, and I definitely want to revisit that at some point because I have very fond memories of it.
Because I used to watch. Every time I watched that, I would watch The Jerk, and I used to watch Great Outdoors.
Oh God, The Great Outdoors.
Yeah.
Jesus. Man, I've seen that so many times. And both of those films have a great ass joke. Those aren't killers. and like blow it out your ass from The Great Outdoors.
Yeah.
And what is it? The 86er, the 96er, the 96-ounce steak. I always thought
Gotta eat that fat. Eat that fat. And the last time I watched those, Camp Candy was still on the air.
Oh yeah, shit. Yeah, that cartoon. Fuck.
Yeah.
I miss John Candy. So fucking good. Like I honestly, as good as a lot of his movies are, his best stuff was SCTV, where he was just playing these like really awkward, weird, out of bounds fucking characters. Where a lot of the time, a lot of the stuff wasn't necessarily traditionally funny, but in the context of what he was doing, it was like really great. Like he's kind of an underappreciated comedic.
I remember. I think that was John Candy. Was it John Candy that was doing the Bears? How about them Bears? My heart stopped. No, there it goes. I can't remember. I'm trying to remember. It's blending in my brain. John Candy's melting my brain right now. I can't.
You know, John Candy was in JFK.
Was he?
Yeah, he has a very small role as like this guy smoking cigarettes and informing Kevin Costner about some element of the conspiracy early in the film. He's like one of the first people that Kevin Costner talks to about, you know.
Okay, I totally don't remember that at all, but I totally buy it at the same time because that is a character he could play, like, totally. Cause
like, he's basically playing it as, like, this, like, aging 50s, like, hipster, hepcat kind of guy, you know, so he's kind of got that, come on, man, and he's, like, smoking a cigarette, like, super close, you know. You know, it's a really, you know, that's a, you know, JFK is a film we could definitely talk about at some point,
yeah.
but you watch that film and Oliver Stone put in so many different actors just from, you know, who you would just recognize physically, you know, because you've got so many people in it, and he, you know, like, we'll shoot you for 4 hours and then you're done, you know, sort of thing. Yeah. And it's a very physical role, and it shows that John Candy, he had more in him than just the roles we think of him for. And then you know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, he could do drama. I mean, although it was, I guess,
Uncle Buck, that was drama.
Yeah. Uncle Buck was the other film that's when I think of a John Candy film, that's the one I think of because you know.
But he could do drama. I mean, think of something like Only the Lonely, which is kind of a comedy, but it's a drama at the same time.
I haven't seen Only the Lonely. I need to see that.
John Candy should have played Gacy.
Jesus! Wow, that would have been a fucking turn.
Yeah.
But yeah, I could see him doing like you know, like a chain smoking hipster, because I mean, a lot of stuff he did on SCTV was like sort of like hucksters and hard boiled talking kind of guys and stuff like that. Like, you know, so like he's really good at that shit. So
didn't he always used to impersonate Madden? John Madden? I remember.
I don't remember if he ever did John Madden, but he definitely did Orson Welles a lot.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
He did a lot of great Orson Welles.
I've actually never seen an episode of SCTV. Now I want to look up John Candy doing Orson Welles. This is going to be a thing. Does Uncle Buck count as a holiday film? Doesn't that take place during?
Was it during a holiday?
I can't remember. It's a fucking awesome.
I have the holiday film that I think of with John Candy is because he plays a cameo in Home Alone.
There you go.
And at the train at the train station, or they had the polka band in the back, and he drove.
Right. Yes. Of course. Yeah. No.
And, because I remember my mom took us to watch that in the theater, and for some reason we drove all the way to Scranton, Pennsylvania, to watch it in the theaters. And she's like, "I've been to here. I've been to here. I've been to here. Where the hell am I now? Scranton." And I'm like, "Yeah." Well, we're at Scranton right now, bitch.
The only thing that really Scranton, you know, that you should think of for Scranton is like, hey, The Office, you know.
Never watched it.
And Joe Biden. Those are the two things that you should think of when you think of Scranton.
Yeah.
I don't want to think of Joe Biden.
I don't want to think of Joe Biden, and I didn't see The Office. Actually, didn't The Office originally come from England, and they just stole it?
Yes, it did.
Is that how that works?
There were like 5 different versions of it that were on TV shows around. And The Office is actually a show that did a Christmas episode every year.
I was going to say they better do a Christmas episode, because back in the day, I don't think they do it anymore, but shows used to do holiday episodes.
Okay, well, here we go. Here's the greatest holiday episode for a sitcom ever done. WKRP in Cincinnati, their Thanksgiving episode. With the turkey drop, the live turkey drop from the fucking helicopters. I swear to God, I thought turkeys could fucking fly. Jesus Christ.
That's a classic.
My favorite TV show is News Radio. That was my favorite.
News Radio is awesome.
And they had the Halloween, they had the Christmas episode, shit like that. So I was always big fan of News Radio. Again, a Canadian.
For more modern, Bob's Burgers does a Thanksgiving episode every year, and they do. You know, Bob Belcher is well known for his turkey preparation, which never goes the way he plans. And you know, it's a great show. Shane and I just put that on like regularly at this point, just as background radiation in the house almost. Just Bob's Burgers is just always playing in our heads. It's a thing.
Yeah, I'm going to throw one out here, which is more of a obscure one. Probably, I don't think either of you guys have seen this. Probably, it's called Blast of Silence from 1961, I believe the year was.
I still have that tab open on my PC because I want to watch that.
It is a Hitman film, black and white, and it is set during the Christmas holidays. A hitman goes to New York to kill some targets, and it is really well done. It is it's a lot deeper than a lot of Hitman films, as he's basically walking around New York with the Christmas season going on. He feels more and more isolated and more out of place. He reconnects with some people in his life from the past, and it just makes him feel more and more desolate and depressed. And it does a good job of sort of bringing in that Christmas atmosphere and how some people actually feel during Christmas. Like, as much as people want to make like, oh, Christmas is a happy time and everyone's happy and shit, honestly, you know, they make a point of, you know, there's a lot of suicides during Christmas. A lot of people see all the people who are happy around them and feel more and more depressed and despondent. And this film, I think, kind of captures that really, really well. And it sets him off his game. Like, he's a professional hitman, and the Christmas season essentially throws him off his game and makes him fuck up and make mistakes.
I think that was what Gremlins tried to do too. You know, some people are having a good time, and then some people are fighting gremlins. So
yeah,
isn't the apartment set in the Christmas season, and it kind of plays with the same ideas?
I can't remember. Like, I've only seen it.
Or maybe it's New Year's. Maybe it's New Year's. But I know there's a scene in a bar that's during a holiday.
Well, I was wondering if anyone was going to actually go into that dark hollow of holiday films where you go, okay, Silent Night, Bloody Night, Silent Night, Deadly Night, don't open till Christmas, and no New Year's Evil, yeah, and Santa's Sleigh, Rare Cargo, and Rare Extra.
I was going to mention Rare Cargo, and I was kind of expecting you to bring up the other ones. So
yeah, I'm like, okay, here it is, all the horror fucking films.
Yes, the apartment takes place like between Christmas and New Year's Eve. So yes,
there you go.
Right on. One of Lee's and I, anyways, favorite films was actually filmed during Christmas. So that must have been one hell of a shoot to clean it up and set up all the Christmas stuff every time they got done filming, which is Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then, of course, they shot in the mall, and they only could shoot during the night, and they actually had to clean everything up before the fucking mall opened in the morning.
Right. Yeah. Yep. Put everything back, all the Christmas stuff and everything.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Can I go with a bona fide classic?
Go ahead.
It's a Wonderful Life.
It really isn't, though. I found out.
I also think It's a Wonderful Life or Socialism the movie. Like, that's kind of, anti-capitalism movie. You know, like that's just, you know.
I thought you were actually going to say Christmas Story for a classic.
I was for me It's a Wonderful Life is the one. Like, that's
right.
Like, that's the one that was always playing.
Oh, no, that's the one you wish you were watching while you were getting tortured with the 24 hours of A Christmas Story. Oh, yeah, I forgot. That's right.
I wish they'd alternate between It's a Wonderful Life and A Christmas Story, so you could watch you know, I don't hate A Christmas Story, but I don't like have that immediate connection to it the way a lot of people do.
Hey, he's Kojak the Night Stalker to me. I like it.
Yeah.
Hey, and that kid went on to do porn, so you know.
Hey.
Yeah, his Red Ryder gun or whatever took on.
Apparently, it only shoots blanks. That's
You'll give her a pink eye. Easy there.
Yeah, Jesus. I'm not a big fan of It's a Wonderful Life, honestly. It's one of those ones that, everyone considers a bona fide classic, and it's one of those ones that just kind of feels, I don't know, it doesn't work for me as well.
There's a lot of films that play off that film.
I do sort of appreciate, like, there is a darkness in that film that is kind of nice.
Well, it's a film that's about suicide. Like, I mean, you know, like, for 1941 Frank Capra film, like, you really can't, like, push too hard on that, like, basically this is a film about, like, I'm going to kill myself. No, let's talk about the fact that maybe you shouldn't kill yourself.
Yeah, the best there's far more suicides in Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
That's
Far
true.
more
That's true.
suicides.
Is there not a website somewhere that some guy tallied up how many years Bill Murray actually spent in Groundhog Day? Apparently, like if you actually like follow the movie through, like how many days he must have actually lived over and over again before he finally fucking got out of the loop. I'm pretty sure there is somewhere. I heard there was.
There is. So, like, if you, and I wish I'd known because I would have looked it up and had it, but it's like if you just look at, like, the number of actual days that you see, it's in the years. Like, it's not like some, but then, like, you add up, like he learns how to, like, do ice carving during the film. He learns how to, like, throw cards. He learns how to, like, play piano. He learns how to do, and when you add up the amount of time that it would take him to learn to do all these things, I mean, it could be, like, thousands of years that he's in this.
I always assumed it was the same day repeating itself, not a whole calendar year repeating himself. But at the same time, Daniel makes the point that I already thought of as how long does it actually take you to learn how to play the motherfucking piano? Because I'm working on 13 years now, still don't get it. You know what I mean? Like, so that kind of
Yeah, I mean, but if all you had to do, like, if you were literally like, I'm immortal.
Yeah, literally,
like,
yeah.
I can go and I can spend 30 years and just every day get up and learn to play the piano.
Right.
And you
like,
see that, and that makes the question.
Or plan out the bank robbery or the bank.
Right, exactly.
And you see that begs the question, like, would he have not gone just, like, totally fucking insane by that point? Or does his mental state reset every fucking day?
Well,
like,
and you can imagine that, like, maybe he did. Like,
No,
just
whenever he kept on
go
jumping
mad.
off, he just kept on jumping off buildings and trying to play chicken with a train. I think he'll score first. I love it. I love it.
You can imagine, like, if you want to go super dark, you can imagine that he does, like, for 20 years, just go bonkers. Like, not to be ableist. But he just goes off his rocker for a while, and but he still, like, he just gets up every day and he's out of his mind.
I mean, that's
and then
the best
eventually
part
he
of
just
it.
kind of grabs sanity again, and then he goes on.
Yeah,
And it's
because
just
really it's a dark comedy. It's
You know,
really dark
yeah,
comedy.
so there's definitely at least one day in there where he basically just face fucks Chris Elliott.
Yeah, I mean, I would
mean,
imagine that he fucked everybody in that town at least once. That would
And
have to
not
be,
only
you know,
that, but Chris Elliott in his van. In your own fucking van. I like it.
So,
Yeah.
as long as we're talking about Groundhog Day, actually there's a book called Replay. It's written by a guy named Ken Grimwood. It's a science fiction novel from the late 80s, and it's the idea is that one day this guy who just, in 1988, which was the president of the book, just finds himself back in his old, like, 18-year-old body in 1963, and he lives out the next 25 years. And then when he gets back to that day in 1988, he goes back, and he starts back from 1963. And so it's sort of like, imagine if, like, Groundhog Day wasn't a day, but it was like 25 years.
Right.
Just kept reliving.
Back,
And
yeah.
then the plot, like, it's a really fascinating novel, and definitely worth your time. If you're a fan of Groundhog Day and you kind of want to see the implications of some of that in more detail, definitely check out that book Replay by Ken Grimwood.
So
Cool.
Sounds like a long version of 18 again, that old George Burns film from the 80s.
Yeah, no, man, that's a film I haven't thought of in a while. Except when I wonder who, what Harry S. Truman's middle name was. You know, that's what I always.
We're talking about a Bill Murray film. I'm going to throw back to like a rehashing a classic in a way, and plus a dark comedy. Scrooged is an awesome Christmas movie.
Yeah,
That's
there
on my
you go.
list. It's on my list. Yep.
Yeah, Scrooge is an awesome Christmas movie.
That was one that was one that was unfairly maligned in its time.
Yeah.
That's a great fucking comedy.
It is good. That's a good one. Bill Murray makes really good comedies. I mean,
Bill Murray is fucking
he's
awesome.
really good.
And Bobcat Goldthwait makes our
Yeah.
list. And Carol Kane, for that matter.
Yeah.
You know, as long as we're landing on these things.
There's lots of different good ones in that one. good actors. and
Yeah, there are
stuff in
some
that
really
film.
good people in that. Yeah. No, that's a
now,
great film.
Wasn't one of the Batman movies shot during Christmas?
I think
I think
Batman
2 Returns. Yeah,
Batman
Batman
Returns.
2.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was.
That seems kind of snowy and Christmassy, so
Yeah,
I'll count it. I'll call
Yeah,
it.
I was just trying to wonder. I think there was a Christmas involved there somehow, but I couldn't remember.
Although I'm not a big fan of that film, honestly. But I mean, I think actually I'm not a big fan of Tim Burton's interpretation of Batman at all, honestly, because he doesn't care about Batman. He cares about the fucking villains and making them as weird as possible. Batman to him is just nothing.
Yeah.
Well, Batman is kind of the boring character. Like he's
Well,
kind of like, I mean,
Let's spice him up with the villain.
cinematically, like
it depends. It depends on how you portray him. I guess maybe cinematically he has not been portrayed particularly interesting.
I mean, even in the Christian Bale,
yeah.
the Christopher Nolan, Batman isn't the one you're really looking at. Like even in Batman Begins, I mean, where he's kind of the main, where he's the thrusting character.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Christian Bale thrusting into things I'm okay with it. But,
Oh, good for you! Good for you!
I'm gonna put it in the
I don't know, like in a lot of ways, the most interesting portrayal of Batman ever is the Adam West Batman, because it makes fun of the whole concept. Like
Someday you just can't get rid of a bomb.
Yeah.
from the movie, yeah, that's always the
yeah.
line I think of when I think of, it is kind of, I mean, we make fun of the '66 Batman, the Adam West Batman, but I think there is a sense in which that version of the character kind of poking fun at the whole idea in the kind of superhero mythos is in some ways the most interesting of the cinematic Batman.
Well, I think honestly the best cinematic look at Batman is the recent animated films that did the Frank Miller's Dark Knight
Well,
comic book,
there's those, yeah, sure. Yeah.
where he is he's basically a libertarian psychopath is what he is, and that is deep down what the character honestly is. He is crazy, like he is a nutcase.
Yeah.
I mean. He is a hero, but he is a fucking nutcase at the same time, and that's the more interesting look at the character. Where does his moral compass end? What are his limits? What is the mentality of this character who's living in a universe full of superpowered humans, and he is trying to cope with that at the same time he's got his dead parents issues, and he's got this rogues gallery that he cannot murder because of his strict fucking code, and how far will he go before he actually fucking breaks eventually, and there's a lot of interesting stuff there that just doesn't really leak out into the cinematic live action films. So
Yeah, we definitely need to do some animated films on this podcast at some point. And I would love to get the excuse to sit down and watch some of those animated Batman films. I've seen some of them. I think like one of the year one films, I saw some of that at like a friend's house, like, on the TV, and I was like, that looks kind of interesting, but it's also like, man, you look at like these animated the animated DC universe, and it just gets so big so fast, and like, what am I supposed to watch?
That's where their strength is. Like compared to Marvel with their cinematic stuff, DC, their animated stuff is where it's really at. Like those Batman films, fucking great. I've watched every one of them so far, and they're really impressive.
Awesome. I've got one more Christmas film on my list, and just to throw it out there. Kind of a more modern one, not nearly as dark unless you want to read it that way, which I'm perfectly willing to do. Elf.
Oh yeah,
Will
Ferrell, yeah.
Yeah, Will Ferrell, which I remember like when that was new, and people were like, kind of sitting there and just going like, this is, even at the time in 2003, I think people were looking at that going, this is the new, like, this is one of those new classics that people are going to be watching over and over again for the holidays. Because it is kind of like, I mean, it's very kid-friendly in the same way that A Christmas Story is, but it's also like there is kind of a depth to it, and there is sort of a like non-schmaltziness to a bunch of it, which does help considerably in terms of like kind of keeping it relevant, and keeping it interesting. Because when you are kind of what I think of when I think of a holiday film, it's like this is something I'm going to want to watch every year around this time, or at least kind of like make me, whenever I'm in this time of year, I kind of think about this film. And if it's something I'm going to watch on a regular basis and kind of like have fond memories of, it needs to have a certain level of like integrity and a certain level of like I'm not going to just want to stab my eyes out thinking about this film. There is a holiday film that I watched that I saw for the first time recently, and that was Love Actually. I don't know if you guys have seen that film at all.
I haven't seen it. I've heard of it, but
yeah. I always heard of that as like the this is kind of one of the better romantic comedies out there, and it is, but it so portrays the standard cliches of so much of this. It's just like 10 romantic comedies with all the filler cut out, and it's just like the same old thing, and deeply inherent misogyny and all that sort of thing. But if you're looking for a Christmas movie, that's one that people love. But it was definitely one of those like, this is kind of clever, but I just have to turn my brain off entirely, which I don't have to do with something like Elf. Like it is something that kind of works on its own terms. And it's got what's his name in it?
James Caan.
Well, James Caan, but Peter Dinklage. It's got Peter Dinklage in it.
Oh, so, yeah.
And the guy who is a part of Tenacious D, who isn't Jack Black.
Oh, Pete Gas.
Kyle
Gass.
Yeah, Kyle Gass. Yeah.
Yeah. Elf's really good. One of the sort of modern James Caan roles where he's not embarrassing himself doing a shitty film. So that's always enjoyable. Another one I'll throw out there, The Ice Harvest.
God, yeah.
Yeah, that's done. That's Christmas. Billy Bob Thornton, fucking, what's his name? God damn it.
Cusack?
John Cusack. Great noir film.
Isn't that directed by Harold Ramis?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, Harold Ramis.
That was his last. That was one of his last, if not his last. Yeah, no, man.
No, he did a comedy after that was garbage. But The Stone Age, I think it was.
Oh God. So
yeah, which is
his last film. His last film. We're just gonna call.
Yeah, let's just say it's his last film. Yeah.
No, I haven't seen that. I mean, I actually don't think I've seen that all the way through. I saw like the last 30 minutes or something and went, my God, this is something I really need to sit down and watch.
It is fantastic. It's got Oliver Platt in this great role as this drunk lawyer who knows all the seedy underbelly bullshit in the town. And
Oliver Platt, drunk lawyer. I just think of A Time to Kill. Like just landing on that. But
it's great. It's great. Oliver Platt just doesn't give a fuck. He's best friends with John Cusack. He's actually married to John Cusack's ex-wife in the film, so he knows all the dirty secrets, and he doesn't give a fuck. The marriage he's in is a hateful marriage. He doesn't care. So he's like, so he bonds with John Cusack, and he knows John Cusack's dirty deeds because John Cusack's like a low-level mafia guy in the town and shit.
Right.
And it's so good. It's fucking humorous, and there's this like nice circle of karma in the film that sort of goes around, and it does sort of capture sort of the depressing side of the holidays really well. So very impressive film, and goddamn, I wish it honestly was Ramis's last film because that would have been a great one to go out on. But
awesome.
Well, yeah. I remember. I didn't see that one. That one seems interesting. I haven't seen that one.
It's great.
First, when you said Stone Age, I thought you meant like the one from the early '90s.
No,
it's year one, isn't it? It's the Michael Cera one.
Yeah.
It's the really stupid one that
Okay.
Jack Black and Michael Cera. Yeah. The Stone Age from the early '90s is one of my favorite films of all time.
Yeah.
That's a great film.
Yeah, that's a good one. As far as holiday movies, I'm just going to throw one that my kids watch all the time and I like because I grew up watching was Hocus Pocus. They watch it on Laserdisc all the time. And then Ernest.
My wife loves
saves-
that.
I love it. I love that film. I've actually been to some of the places in Salem where they shot it. They didn't shoot much of it there, but they shot a few things. There.
Hocus Pocus is another one that I saw theatrically when it was new, when I was a kid. So just
Nice.
throwing it out there.
Yeah, no, I like it. I like the film. And,
The only thing I remember about that film is this one gag where the two other witches like take off with brooms between their legs. So
yeah,
and then
yeah,
the third one, Kathy
and
Najimy,
Jimmy, yeah.
he has a vacuum cleaner, and she
I saw her in Rat Race later, and I'm like, I'd slap that big fat ass in my cock. I'm like, hell yeah, look at her.
I mostly know her as Peggy Hill from King of the Hill. Like it's one of those like I don't associate her with a particular like physical role. I think of her as Peggy Hill. You know.
Oh, did you ever see Rat Race?
I've seen it.
I like that. It's basically Rat Race is basically it's a mad world redone in the 90s, which they're both good films. John Lovitz is fucking amazing because he's always amazing in everything he does. But the one of the films to go back to the holiday is a quintessential holiday film. Ernest Saves Christmas. Quintessential.
Well, and Ernest Scared Stupid. If we're gonna talk
the other thing. I said I was going Christmas, but yeah.
The best of the Ernest films was Ernest Goes to Jail, though. Like that's you know.
Yeah.
I always like Ernest Goes to Camp, but my favorite is obviously Scared Stupid. My one daughter runs around and goes, "How about a bumper sandwich, booger lips?" Like so. She watches it a lot.
I'll throw one out there. The Crow.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That is basically a sort of Christmas New Year's film, but or is it a Halloween film? I can't remember. It's a holiday film.
Is it a holiday film?
It is a holiday film. I can't remember if it was Halloween or Christmas New Year's, one or the other. But
are we counting New Year's? Because they got a great one for New Year's.
Yeah, New Year's we can count definitely.
Oh, yeah.
That's a holiday.
Strange Days, motherfucker.
Yeah, Strange Days. There you go. Sweet.
I was thinking like Thanksgiving, Christmas, you know, and like that was kind of where my head was. But Strange Days might be the single greatest New Year's film ever made.
Strange Days is fucking awesome.
I've never seen it.
You've never seen Strange Days? Jesus Christ, sir! You need to get on that shit.
When was it made?
1995.
Yeah,
I think it's before 2000. I can watch it. Okay, good.
And it's
Ray Fiennes, Juliette Lewis,
yeah,
Tom Sizemore. Learn nothing about the film. Directed by Catherine Bigelow. Don't learn anything else about the film. Just
watch it
and watch it.
It's fucking. I think you're gonna enjoy the hell of it, Paul. It's a fucking awesome film.
Basically, there's a couple other horror films that really hit the nail on the head for the days. This one comes in a 2-pack. You can get April Fool's Day, and you can get My Bloody Valentine. And
My Bloody Valentine totally would recommend April Fool's Day.
It's an April Fool's Day, but it's not really the greatest. But My Bloody Valentine's a great film.
My Bloody Valentine is really good. April Fool's
Day.
Not
the remake. The original.
Yeah, the original, definitely. But April Fool's Day, that cheats the fucking viewer.
Yeah, it does.
I think it really does.
Yeah.
It is called April Fool's Day.
Yeah, it is, but I mean, goddamn.
I haven't seen it, so I don't know. I'm just saying.
Yeah, you're not missing out at all, Dan.
You can always check out, Friday the 13th films. So there you go. That's a holiday where I come from.
I mean, we could.
Saturday the 14th.
Saturday the 14th. I was expecting that we'd throw out some of the ones we did on our Halloween episode. Halloween. There you go. Halloween. That's the quintessential Halloween film. But you could also go Trick or Treat, or Trick or Treat from the 80s, but Trick or Treat from the 2000s.
With Sam, right?
Yeah,
Sam?
Which is great. That is a great fucking film. One of the new kind of horror classics as far as I'm concerned.
My sister and I used to watch The Halloween Tree every Halloween. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's a nice cartoon, Halloween Tree. And then we'd always watch The Grinch That Stole Christmas.
Yeah.
And Boris Karloff and Thorol Ravenscroft. That's one hell of a name. Tony Tiger for the win.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna pull this up here. I was looking earlier, just kind of trying to like brainstorm for this and thinking about like so I just googled like films, Thanksgiving films, and then there's a list on Wikipedia, list of films set around Thanksgiving, and it's kind of surprising like some films that are like set around Thanksgiving that you wouldn't necessarily think of. Like Grumpy Old Men is set around Thanksgiving. Paul Blart Mall Cop is set around Thanksgiving. Son-in-law, which Pauly Shore, Carla Gugino. Carla Gugino is super hot in that.
Yeah, she is.
But there's this Hannah and Her Sisters. It's a Thanksgiving film. You know what I mean? She's Gotta Have It is a Thanksgiving film.
Really?
So there are like all these things where I just started looking at them and I'm like, I can't even. Brokeback Mountain, apparently part of it takes place around Thanksgiving. So
well, they were definitely stuffing the turkey, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know.
Jesus Christ, yeah.
If you're gonna talk about stuffing the bird, I mean, I'm.
There was a different kind of gobbling going on, if you know what I mean. Oh my Jesus.
But was
it like Boondock Saints sitting around some kind of fucking holiday or something like that?
Oh Jesus Christ! I don't know because I want to forget those movies. But
yeah. Well, how about The Fugitive is set around St. Patrick's Day? That's
there you go.
Ever made around St. Patrick's Day.
Fugitive.
I didn't kill my wife. I don't care.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, yeah. Tommy Lee Jones, you should have cared a lot more.
You should have cared, man.
He should have cared about his job. That's his thing. And Joey Pantoliano was in that, so there we go.
Oh, here you go, Mardi Gras Massacre, completely horrible film, but there you go.
Mardi Gras, there's got to be a great film set around Mardi Gras.
Well, there's actually a film, a new Book of Life. It's called. It's basically around Day of the Dead. It's an animated film based around Day of the Dead.
I'm pretty sure one of the Candyman sequels is set around Mardi Gras.
Maybe.
I just think of Spring Break, the Harmony Korine with Selena Gomez and the other teeny bopper girls.
Spring Breakers, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, with James Franco in it. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I haven't watched it, but I heard it was very decisive. Either you really liked it or you really hated it.
Well, it's Harmony Korine, so what do you want?
Yeah.
I'm thinking. I'm thinking.
Well, I mean, you mentioned it before, Paul, but like Rare Exports, A Christmas Tale, I think is pretty fucking awesome.
Yeah. Well, now they got Krampus coming out.
Yeah, there's a couple Krampus movies, like there's one or two of them. Yeah. But,
I feel like, and this is kind of where, like, the more we talk about it, the more I'm like, the movies that are like deliberately marketed as quote unquote Christmas movie, some of those are fine, like there's nothing wrong with it, but there's so many of the ones that I really like come back to over and over again are just more interesting films that are just set during that time period. You know what I mean?
Right. They're not the focus of the film. It's just
right.
Set
Right. It's not like overtly, it's set during Thanksgiving or whatever.
Well, like I said, the Ice Harvest, it's not about Christmas, but it uses the downside of Christmas, like the other side of Christmas, where everything's kind of depressing and sad. It uses that to set the mood for the film with the characters, and it does a really good job of it. So,
or The Apartment, which is, have either of you seen The Apartment?
No. I have seen it once, but it was a long time ago, dude.
That's one I definitely want to cover on the show at some point. I know I've mentioned it a couple of times.
Yeah. Well, we will do it. We will do it.
It's one of those. It's one of those just great films. But like it takes that like being single and alone on the holidays thing, and it like builds a whole story around it in some ways, which is really fascinating.
Wasn't Child's Play set around Christmas, and that's how he got the doll in his house?
I can't remember.
I can't remember either.
Yeah,
that makes sense. I mean, sure.
So I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think now.
Well, and
wasn't Lord of the Rings a Christmas book? No, never mind.
No.
Maybe
the Chronicles of Narnia.
The thing with what I find interesting about the Christmas season is like really kind of where we land on some of this stuff is it's the whole point is Christmas is the solstice. It's the coldest day of the year, the longest, darkest day of the year, and so we're supposed to be thinking about festivities and we're happy and we're joyous, but at the same time it takes place during this cold, dark, lonely time of every year, and so there is this kind of intrinsic tension to anything that's set during Christmas, and that it is simultaneously, this time when we have this like forced festivity, at least here in the Western world, those of us kind of middle class and who listen to podcasts and buy gifts and that sort of thing, but at the same time, is this like the whole thing is like we get together and we celebrate almost in opposition to that cold, dark, dank time of year. And I think that the best Christmas movies that I can think of like embrace that dichotomy in a way, Not to get, I know we've been having a good time, and then I just threw in some.
We do Yule in our house, so I mean I understand what you're saying about the middle of the end of the light and the sun and the snow, and I mean I understand what you're saying there. So, but. I still think Lord of the Rings is a Christmas movie, though. It's got to be.
Do you think hobbits are elves? That's all there is.
Oh, is that it?
No,
they had elves in there.
Yeah, but those elves are more like...
oh, never mind. Yeah.
They're more like angels or something.
Oh, isn't that Balrog? Wasn't that Santa? No, I don't know.
No. Gandalf's the evil, smack-you-in-the-face Santa.
What you talking about? Samuel L. Jackson should have played Gandalf. He could have yelled at everybody.
Yeah, and he'd have a.
I don't need any more of these motherfucking Balrogs in my motherfucking Shire.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So much better that way.
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna get to Movie God today. Like, I'm just landing on that. I think this is too much fun to interrupt the movie.
I'm just trying to figure out what the fuck else to think of as far as holiday movies.
Hey, I do have a movie guide for you guys, and it's based on Punch Drunk Love. So if you want to, I'll kind of throw it out to both of you.
I mean, let's. I think we've gone through holiday movies pretty well, and we could.
I think we got a lot of them anyway.
Yeah, I actually, I kind of forgot I was intending to do Movie God first before we got into this, but fuck it, let's do Movie God now and end on that. So, Daniel, throw your Movie God out.
Sure, and this can go to both of you guys. We'll just chat about it. Like, it's not like a challenge.
Yeah.
But it's based on, because I really liked our Punch Drunk Love episode. Of course I did, because I recommended the movie, and I think we had a really good conversation.
We did,
But it is kind of based on that, and given the choice, you got to kill one of these two people. Should I explain Movie God? So you kill one of the two people, or one of the two movies, or one of the two whatever, and then that not only do you kill it, but it's erased from the timeline. So it's gone, and everything that comes from that is gone. So I now ask you, if you had to kill one of the two, Adam Sandler or Jim Carrey?
I'd kill Adam Sandler.
No question.
I'd kill him with my fists until he's dead. Yeah, I could have lived with Adam Sandler out of my life the whole time, so I'm pretty much good with that. I'm willing to sacrifice.
And I mean,
I just watched Dumb and Dumber 2, so I'll just kill Jim Carrey at the same time because he ruined my life.
No, you have to kill one or the other. You can't.
Adam Sandler then. Adam Sandler.
There you go.
I mean, if you kill Adam Sandler, you basically the good things you lose are if you like his comedies, you kill those, and then you kill Punch Drunk Love, and that's kind of it.
No, that'd be great because then I would never had to watch Punch Drunk Love for that fucking. Well, I fast forwarded it, but.
But I mean, Adam Sandler some of his stand-up is really nice. I kind of like a lot of his stuff on SNL and that sort of thing. But
I wouldn't have been able to hear "Piece of Shit Car."
I just think of the Hanukkah song. Like that's kind of when I think of Adam Sandler. That's sort of that's almost the first thing I think of is the Hanukkah song.
Hanukkah. What movies are around Hanukkah time? I don't know.
Well, there's the Crazy Nights, which was.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Well, there's even more of a reason to kill fucking Adam Sandler.
Yeah, kill him dead.
All right, Lee, how do you feel? Jim Carrey or Adam Sandler? I mean, I don't think this is a hard decision. I thought it was interesting.
I would erase Adam Sandler just like that. As much as I love Punch Drunk Love, and
I couldn't live without Fire Marshal Bill without him. So I love Fire Marshal Bill. So.
I mean, I'm going to say it right now, like, Punch Drunk Love's going to be in my 10 best for the end of the year show or whatever. But still saying that, I could live without Adam Sandler. I really could.
Well, here's where I land on that, and I don't disagree with you, but I think Punch Drunk Love is better than anything that Jim Carrey was ever involved in.
It really is.
Know?
But
I mean, the great thing about it is not. But if you kill Adam Sandler, I don't know that movie exists. You know.
The thing is, Jim Carrey overall throughout his career offends me the least compared to Adam Sandler.
I don't disagree with you. Jim Carrey is a better actor and a better comedian and a better performer than Adam Sandler. But Punch Drunk Love is a higher high than anything.
Yeah.
Like the Truman Show. Okay, I'll give you the Charlie Kaufman one.
Eternal Sunshine of the
Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Yeah.
Possibly on that same level as Punch Drunk Love.
But I would say I hate that film, though. I know some people really love that film. I hate that film because I just find the leads incredibly detestable. And I don't like them.
Well, we need to discuss this. I think this is worth discussing.
It is. But I'll say this, Jim Carrey, I think he's a better dramatic actor when he's given the chance than Adam Sandler is. And as much as he probably needs to have a lot of needles stuck into him, vaccination-wise...
right. I mean, people have actually died because of Jim Carrey, and I don't think anybody's died because of Adam Sandler. So
yeah, I mean, kudos for banging Jenny McCarthy when she wasn't saying stupid shit, but...
she was saying stupid shit by that point. I'll just,
okay.
He fell with her after she was already saying the stupid shit. And in fact, he started saying the stupid shit because he got it from her, I think. That's kind of where I landed.
Yeah, but...
stupid shit disease.
Yeah, pretty much. But, overall, Jim Carrey's career, I like his stuff better than Adam Sandler, so that's where I fall on it. So I'd keep Jim Carrey, I'd drop Adam Sandler. That's where it is.
Yeah. I don't think it's a hard decision, but I do think it's an interesting decision. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The one I'll throw out for you, Daniel, and it's going to be... This is one that I feel like I probably should have thought of a long time ago because it seems pretty fucking obvious, but it is... You are a movie god, Daniel, and you must eliminate one of these two actors. You must either eliminate Robert De Niro or Al Pacino.
I'll say personally, Robert De Niro means more to me because of Goodfellas. I love his performance in Goodfellas. Al Pacino is great. He kind of hasn't. I don't know. I mean, my immediate response is to kill Al Pacino, just because, other than Dog Day Afternoon, there's not like one that I point to and go, that's the great. Okay, Serpico. I mean, there are a handful, but to me, Robert De Niro is the more vital actor. He lasted longer as a kind of a great performer.
But the question is, though, who has tarnished the reputation more? Has it been Al Pacino or Robert De Niro in the last 2 years?
Al Pacino. I mean, in the last, there's no question. Robert De Niro is still acting, and Al Pacino's kind of not. I mean, if Al Pacino was still trying to kind of move on and do things, I mean, he would be doing the same kind of self-parody that Robert De Niro's doing at this point, I think. He just decided to bow out and, just live on the money he already had, which is great. For me, like, I just kind of look at like Robert De Niro's last 15 years ago. He's collecting a paycheck. Like, I don't care. Like, you do your thing, man. If I was Robert De Niro, I'm not saying I wouldn't do the same damn thing, you know. And I would rather have De Niro's best stuff than have Pacino's best stuff, because I think you could make the argument that without De Niro, Scorsese may not even happen, you know, without having that muse in the early career. And going without Scorsese would just be a travesty to me, you know. I mean, you would have to lay up something really fundamental to make me choose it over Scorsese. Like, let's just put it that way. And I don't know that like Scorsese's first, you know, 4 or 5 films would have happened without De Niro there to be that muse, you know. So I killed Pacino, like, no question.
Nice, I like that.
It's
like
pretty
that,
easy
actually.
for me, you know.
Yeah, that's actually pretty well reasoned. I like that. You have anything, Paul? You want to throw in any of us, or?
Well, I don't know. How about this? It doesn't matter. I'm not good at this, so who would you kill off? Would you kill off Sir Anthony Hopkins, or would you kill off Brian Cox?
Oh, wow. That's actually a tough one. Shit.
This is one where I could actually make the argument that killing off Sir Anthony Hopkins for his later career would probably be this is kind of the Pacino De Niro one, you know, where I'm kind of like, Anthony Hopkins, there's some great performances, but like he really kind of has the long tail of shit, whereas Brian Cox I don't feel like has that same thing. I think if Anthony Hopkins had been a character actor his whole career, I think we would look upon him a little more fondly. The fact that he became a star after Silence of the Lambs, or at least around that time period, I think affected the way his later career went. So I don't know. I think killing Anthony Hopkins is just the more interesting choice. You know, and I almost want to do it just for that. You know,
I would agree. Honestly, as much as I like Anthony Hopkins, this actually goes back to my held position that Brian Cox was the better Hannibal Lecter in Manhunter.
And that's why I brought it up.
Yeah, you son of a bitch. Yeah. I love Brian Cox in fucking Manhunter. His brief scenes in that film make that film for me. His Hannibal Lecter is for me personally, one of the scariest movie villains I've ever seen, because he is so normal, he is so casual, and at the same time he is incredibly fucking insane and scary. But I look at Anthony Hopkins, as great as his performance is for Hannibal Lecter, you know right off the bat that he's nuts. Like, he's more of a horror movie villain than he is like a straight-laced dramatic villain. Is the second you see him, because he's doing that fucking weird stare and smile and shit, you know he's evil, you know he's crazy. You look at Brian Cox's interpretation of Hannibal Lecter, he looks like a history professor who has gone to seed, and that's about it. And he talks like a history professor who's gone to seed. He doesn't seem necessarily insane talking to him, but then you see the full depth of his insanity as the movie progresses, and you see his cleverness and just how dangerous he really is. And that performance has stuck with me throughout the years. And I think Brian Cox overall has just basically outdone himself with character performance after character performance in movies. He's basically been in every movie in the last 15 years or so. You know, like you see him popping up fucking everywhere.
Is it terrible that Brian Cox, I think of him in an adaptation? Like, that's my first thought for Brian Cox. He's just one of those guys who's just been in everything. And I don't know. I don't have a strong attachment to Anthony Hopkins, which is sad to say, because I feel like he is a great actor. The original choice to play Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs, or Jonathan Demme, who he wanted, was Morgan Freeman.
Oh, really?
And without kind of the you know, the studio at the time wouldn't let it be a black guy because we can't have a black guy villain. We can't do this. And I understand that to some degree. Like, I'm not gonna say that's a terrible like impulse to have, but I think without like a kind of obvious Anthony Hopkins answer, maybe we would have gotten Morgan Freeman as Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs, which would have been fascinating in its own right.
It would have been, especially considering like there's so few black serial killers like in real life. Like,
well, there are like the guy in Ohio with the hookers in his basement. I mean, there are. There
are, but it's very, very rare that you see African American black.
Pretty much any time you see somebody killing other people, it's a white guy. It's just it just is. We're just terrible.
We're just more clever about it. We do well, no, I want to skin her and put her all over my walls and write my name and dress up in her skin. Now the other guy's just like shoot him. See, that's not as good.
Can I just throw out one more just for the two guys, and just because I want to destroy one film that we all love. I do, and this choice makes you destroy a film that we all love, and I'm going to make you choose between Tom Savini and George Romero. One of those two people is.
No, I'm killing Tom. I'm killing Tom.
Because without both those guys together, Dawn of the Dead is not in the form that we know it.
But Night of the Living Dead is still there, and they could have got somebody else to do the makeup. So fuck you.
Yeah, goddamn, I hate you, Daniel.
Makeup artists. There's 100 of them.
I will say, I mean, all respect to Tom Savini. George Romero could have found someone else who could have done those effects. Honestly.
Am I saying it would be as good because he did a lot of the stunts and stuff like that, and he was Blades, Blades and Sledge,
yeah,
but
it would have been a lesser film, maybe to some degree.
And the best part of it, without Tom Savini, I wouldn't have to watch Knight Rider because that was horrible.
But fuck. And you know what? I hear Tom Savini's kind of a dick on the convention.
He is a dick. I met him. He's a dick.
There you go. So maybe we eliminate him, but fuck, man. I guess I have to take into account the cinematic contributions of George Romero before Dawn of the Dead, which are considerable. I mean, you have Night of the Living Dead, you have Martin, you have the Crazies.
If it wasn't for the Vietnam War, we wouldn't even be having this conversation.
Because he would have been on Night of the Living Dead.
He would have been on Night of the Living Dead, and I would have been like, fuck you, I'm out, and I would have just closed the cast.
Yeah, because
so really, it's kill Richard Nixon. That's the answer. You know? Yeah.
I am not a. You're dead.
Yeah.
Is what you are.
Oh man, that really sucks. That's a sucky fucking.
No, you just killed Tom Lee.
Can I do the geek version of this? The science fiction geek, the Star Wars geek, because I'm gonna then make you kill something else that like geeky people, like Star Wars fans, and that is John Williams or God, who wrote Empire Strikes Back? Oh God, I'm sorry. You're gonna have to cut this out. I'm gonna sound like I knew what I was talking about for a second. All right.
Who would you rather kill, Harrison Ford or Leonard Nimoy?
Harrison Ford.
Yeah. Fuck.
Lawrence Kasdan wrote. Okay, here we go. And you can edit this however you want. You can make me sound like an idiot, which I was. It's fine. So, do you kill John Williams or Lawrence Kasdan? Because Lawrence Kasdan wrote Empire Strikes Back, very rightly considered to be the great, Star Wars movie, and basically the only person who could say fuck you to George Lucas for that very brief window to make Empire Strikes Back happen. And if Empire had not been If Lawrence Kasdan had not been involved, it would have been like George Lucas just Jar Jar Binksing and Ewoking the entire trilogy.
Jesus Christ.
So basically, but without John Williams, you lose all the great John Williams stuff, including all the stuff that made the Star Wars trilogy what it was. So either way, I'm making you destroy the Empire Strikes Back, which I would argue is one of the great films of all time. You know,
Lee, this is directed to you.
This is a hard one because I could probably live with Star Wars as a beginning and end kind of film where you don't necessarily need a sequel. So I could live with John Williams and Star Wars as it is, and that just being the only film ever. At the same time, Empire Strikes Back is an amazing film. I don't know. It draws from the John Williams score, so it's kind of dependent on it at that point. Fuck. You know what? I'm gonna. This is probably the unpopular choice too. I'm gonna say Kasdan gets the fucking bucket, and we keep John Williams and just the first Star Wars, and you can forget about Empire Strikes Back and the other ones. And Star Wars is the only pure, beautiful film in the franchise that everyone loves.
I think without Empire, Star Wars would have become like more like the Planet of the Apes franchise, where you would have just had like there's the one really good one, and then you get this like kind of line of diminishing returns after a while. You know, like it just kind of goes that way. The one thing I'll put
Conquest is good. Conquest is good.
The one thing I'll put in Lawrence Kasdan's favor, like is Body Heat, which is I think one of the great neo-noirs ever. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but Body Heat is phenomenal. You know, so again, another one I keep bringing them up. We should cover that on this podcast.
Yeah.
I'd be down for that. So yeah, sorry, that's kind of my one that I got this game from Drew McWeeny, who used to do the Motion Capture podcast, and that's the one. If I had to give it to him, I would give it to him because Empire is like his favorite movie of all time.
Nice.
I'd say you got to kill one or the other, John Williams or Lawrence Kasdan, and that was a tough one. He would die. It's just like a thing.
That was a tough one, but yeah, good stuff. Movie God, nice to bring that back. Hopefully, we'll do it more often in upcoming episodes. But I think we can cut it off now. We've been going. I don't know how fucking long we've been going.
We've been going on almost 3 hours.
Yeah. So, and I'm probably not going to cut much out of this episode. So it's going to be a pretty big episode for people listening. So, Daniel, tell us about your Doctor Who podcast.
Sure, if you are not sick of listening to my fucking voice at this point, you can go and check me out and talking about all eras of Doctor Who, Classic Who, and New Who at Oi Spaceman. That's OI Spaceman, all one word, .libsyn.com. And we've got some pretty cool guests coming up. I've been negotiating with a bunch of people, and if you're a Doctor Who fan, which nobody listening to this podcast is, or if you are, then you're already listening to my podcast, so I don't know why anybody cares, but we've got some pretty cool people coming up and some pretty cool episodes coming up. So stay tuned to that. We just put up Logopolis, which is Tom Baker's last episode, and we're moving into the Peter Davison era, and eventually we're going to finish Classic Who, and then we've got some pretty cool shit coming up in like April, May, kind of when we finish all the Doctors and Companions. So
nice.
Go check that out.
Yeah. All right, Paul, where can people find you on the interweb?
Oh, you can check me out on YouTube, PA Brew News. Over there on YouTube, the Funeral Dust 666 for some underground metal, and Back Mountain DIY now on YouTube for some home improvement kind of things. Over on Facebook, PA Brew News, Funeral Dust, and Back Mountain Arts and Crafts on Facebook. And I just moved into the digital age of Twitter, so PA Brew News on Twitter.
Yeah, and you're doing that a lot. You're tweeting all the time.
Yeah, I got no life.
Yeah. And also on the sidebar of our Podbean site, you can find Paul's Back Mountain Crafts. So you can go right there and you can see all the awesome stuff him and his wife are doing, and actually buy some shit and support them.
Yeah,
so it's
exactly.
Good stuff. Yeah. And so the trailer at the end will tell you where you can go to send comments and questions and suggestions for stuff for us to review. We're open to anything. We definitely want more and more comments. We want to interact with our audience. I know there's a bigger audience out there now that's been listening to us. We've been getting more and more views as the months have gone by. and we want to hear from you guys. We want to interact with you, so don't be shy. Even if you hate us and you just want to say we suck, do it, because we want to see those comments. Yeah. So that's awesome. And I don't know, I'm probably going to, even though this is probably almost like a 3-hour fucking show, I'm probably going to sprinkle some music here and there, and I'll probably go out on something. I don't know what I'm going to go out on at this point. But,
I feel like really, if anything should be in the show, it should be the Eli Roth trailer for Thanksgiving.
There we go.
I don't know if it should be at the end, but it should be in the show somewhere.
That Thanksgiving's Day trailer. Oh, by the way, before you look at anything, watch Thanksgiving. Sorry, there you go.
Oh no, I got one. The speech that Linus gives in Charlie Brown Christmas about the tree. You know, that should be what we go out on.
Just need a little love and care, Charlie Brown.
A little bit of the secular religion stuff.
Nice.
Need a little bit of imperialism over there. There you go.
Either that or the the thing from Gremlins.
Yeah, that'd be good too.
There you go. That's nice. I'll try to sprinkle all that shit in here, and I'm sure we'll invite a lot of copyright strikes and stuff. But that's all good fun.
Good, yeah.
Yeah. Until then, thank you guys for joining me, and thank you guys for listening. And we'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to They Must Be Destroyed on Sight. For our other episodes, links to Daniel, Paul, and Lee's other stuff, and links to some great podcasts of similar interest, visit us at tmbdos.podbean.com. There you can leave us comments on the site or directly email us. We listen and respond to everything. Thank you. Drive through.